And there we are. We're live, Dean. I believe we're
Oh,
live.
hi everybody. Hi
It
everybody.
says we're live. Hi, everybody. A little early in the morning for me, but here we are.
Yeah, is this a five stack or is this just a programming special? Like
It's
I'm not a big time TV CBS TV producer like you.
yes.
So why don't you kind of label what we're doing today? Obviously, here for the release of the Epstein files, we're hearing victim impact statements from dozens of Epstein's victims. If you watched any Nancy Mace videos yesterday of her literally running out of a meeting room after she met with the victims, crying her eyes out, hyperventilating, or if you listen to the young lady who's part of the oversight committee saying, "Oh my God, this is way worse than I thought it was," and some very rich and powerful people need to go to jail. Today is going to be a very interesting day, but how do we label this?
This
Is it the Epstein special? Is it the victim special? What are we doing?
I think it's a special report because ultimately this is the first time we're hearing this kind of context the victims speak, and this is an historic day. There's no doubt about it that this is the power to potentially change the presidency. I mean, that's how big a deal this really is. So I'm just going to get the first pictures up here as we're getting them in from the press conference and make sure that we can hear it when it starts. But this is a seminal day. I mean, we've been talking about Epstein for decades. When you think about when Vicky Ward's first article came out, it's been decades. And here we are today, 3 decades later, 2.5 decades, to call it that. Too early for math. Finally hearing from them. It is such a remarkable moment to be able to hear from these people in this context. We've heard from them in some specials, we've heard from them in various other ways, but we've never really heard them with this political context that's just giving us so much profile.
Yeah, no, we haven't. And if the precursor to this, which was a couple of leaks, watching Nancy Mace lose her mind, walk through the halls of Congress after meeting with the victims, member of the Oversight Committee yesterday talking about how, if you could turn that down just a little bit,
I'm trying.
member of the Oversight Committee yesterday saying, "Oh my God, this is so much worse than we thought. It is so much bigger than I thought it was, and some very rich and powerful people need to go to jail," to the point where she said, and I can't remember her name. Anybody in the chat can let us know, even though I can't see it because we're using different software on Substack Live today. But it is truly like, I think we might actually get some pay dirt today. I think that some victims might actually be able to move some mountains today. I think that what was supposed to be a pedophile sex trafficking ring that died with the people who have already died, or the people that are currently involved in it, might come to life today in a big bad way. And when I say bad way, I mean a good way, because to your point, Donald Trump is losing his fucking mind over this press conference, and he's losing his mind over the Epstein files. And Rep. Ro Khanna, Thomas Massey seem to think that they're going to be able to get their hands on the unredacted ones, to the point where Donald Trump literally put out a warning today to every GOP member in the Senate and the Congress, saying, "You ask for more shit, we are absolutely going to make sure we threaten you. So stop asking." And there's only one reason why he doesn't want people to know. And why don't we get to it right now, ladies and gentlemen?
This
is Rep.
Epstein
Cannon.
presser. Okay.
And if folks could just please calm down. People can speak when members of Congress are speaking. I just want to make sure that the victims and survivors are going to be heard today. I want to begin by thanking Brittany Henderson and Brad Edwards for their tireless work in the pursuit of justice. And I want to thank Sarah Drury on my team for working with them. Above all, I want to thank the survivors who are here today, whose courage and strength have brought us to this moment. I want to thank my co-lead, Congressman Thomas Massey, and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, for standing with survivors here today. Today, as you can see, we're united in restoring trust in government. We're here not as partisans, we're here as patriots. We begin the work of bringing this country together, progressives, independents, moderates, and yes, MAGA supporters, to demand truth and justice. A nation that allows rich and powerful men to traffic and abuse young girls without consequence is a nation that has lost its moral and spiritual core. Americans are asking a very simple question. How is it possible that in the richest, most powerful country in the world, there are corrupt special interest forces, both foreign or domestic, that are preventing the release, that have a stranglehold on our government and are preventing the release of the full Epstein files? There is something that is rotten in Washington. Less than 1% of these files have been released. We are demanding today on the discharge petition that all of the files be released. We know we have 212 Democrats and we have 4 Republicans, courageous Republicans like Thomas Massie, Nancy Mace, who was so emotional yesterday after talking to the survivors, Congresswoman Boebert, and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. We need just 2 more signatures to force the release. So we gather here on the steps of the Capitol to confront these corrupt forces. Today we stand with survivors. We stand against big money. We stand to protect America's children. That is really what this is about. I now want to bring up my Republican colleague, Thomas Massie. He has shown so much courage, so much leadership. And I saw some people, I say the same thing about Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has shown so much courage on this issue. I saw some people when I was coming here calling her names. We've got to stop that. We've got to stop the partisanship on this issue. This is an issue where they both have shown real courage and leadership, and I appreciate them joining us today. Congressman Massie.
I want to thank my colleague Ro Khanna for co-leading this effort to bring transparency and justice for these victims. I hope my colleagues are watching this press conference. I want them to think, what if this was your sister? What if this was your daughter? When these survivors speak, the Washington establishment is asking the American public to believe something that is not believable. They're asking you to believe that 2 individuals created hundreds of victims and they acted alone, and that the DOJ has no idea of who else might have been involved, that nobody else did anything that rose to a criminal enterprise. The American people know that's not true. Now, the Speaker of the House just offered a fig leaf to my colleagues. They're going to vote on a non-binding resolution today that does absolutely nothing. I appreciate the efforts of my colleague, James Comer, who's leading the Oversight Committee. They may find some information, but they're allowing the DOJ to curate all of the information that the DOJ is giving them. If you've looked at the pages they've released so far, they're heavily redacted. Some pages are entirely redacted. And 97% of this is already in the public domain. So I'm calling on my colleagues. Be one of the next 2 who sponsors this discharge petition. I think it's shameful that this has been called a hoax. Hopefully today we can clear that up. This is not a hoax. This is real. There are real survivors. There are real victims to this criminal enterprise. And the perpetrators are being protected because they're rich and powerful and political donors to the establishment here in Washington, D.C. So today we're standing with these survivors, and we're giving them a voice, and I want to close by thanking them. They are brave. I hope they encourage other survivors to come forward and to tell their stories, not just of Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell, but anywhere in the country. This is a message that we are sending. This is a litmus test. Can we drain the swamp? Are there people who are outside of the reach of the law? I don't think there should be. So hopefully today we'll get 2 more signatures on the discharge petition. That's all we need. And with that, I want to introduce the bravest woman in Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I find it interesting that the 3 Republican co-sponsors are women. These are women standing up for women. And Marjorie was the first to do it. And I think she deserves all of our gratitude for breaking that barrier and leading the way for the other Republicans. Hopefully they can find their spines as well. And with that, I give you Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yes.
Good morning. This is my 5th year in Congress, and this is the largest press conference that I've seen since I've been here. And this is because this is an issue that matters so much to Americans. This is an issue that doesn't have political boundaries. It's an issue that Republicans and Democrats should never fight about. As a matter of fact, it's such an important issue that it should bring us all together. It's grieved me to watch the arguments and debates take place among my colleagues and even the administration. I think this is something that was worth fighting for. You see, the women behind me are going to tell you stories that you've never heard before. These are unimaginable horrors that they've lived with for their entire lives since they were very, very young. But these are also similar stories that many children, teenagers, women, and even men are enduring nightmares right now as we speak. You see, these women have been fighting since the 1990s. I heard one woman tell us yesterday since 1996. And they have carried with them shame. But I want to tell you something. The shame does not fall on these brave, courageous women. The shame falls on every single person that coldly turned a blind eye to their abuse. The shame falls on every single person that enabled it. The shame falls on every single person that took money to continue it. And the shame falls on the people in power over the past several decades that protected the monster, Jeffrey Epstein, and his cabal that continued a nightmare. Those people deserve the shame. And today we are coming forward and we are going to fight like hell for these women, because we have to fight like hell for those that are enduring sexual abuse and are living in a prison of shame. Anyone that is being abused, it is not your fault. You should live with no guilt or fear or shame. All of the fault belongs to the evil people that do these things to the innocent. This is the most important fight we can wage here in Congress, is fighting for innocent people that never receive justice. And the women behind me have never received justice. And do you want to know why? It's because Jeffrey Epstein somehow was able to walk among the most rich, powerful people, not only in America, but foreign countries. Yesterday, I heard countries like Saudi Arabia, Russia, and even Israel, and other countries. The truth needs to come out, and the government holds the truth. The cases that are sealed hold the truth. Jeffrey Epstein's estate holds the truth. The FBI, the DOJ, and the CIA holds the truth. And the truth we are demanding come out on behalf of these women, but also as a strong message to every innocent child, teenager, woman, and man that is being held captive in abuse. This should never happen in America, and it should never be a political issue that divides us. And I want to thank Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie for doing something brave, crossing political boundaries for a very important fight. And I'm honored to join both of them. And I'm honored that Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert signed the discharge petition along with myself. And I asked my Republican colleagues not to choose just one path for justice and transparency and accountability, but I asked my Republican colleagues to choose every path for justice and accountability and transparency. And with that, I'd like to bring back Congressman Ro Khanna to start this important press conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congresswoman Green, for your courage and for being here. And thank you again to Congressman Massie for co-leading it. I now would like to introduce two people who have been fighting this for decades. They haven't had their voice heard. The victims haven't been heard. They haven't just been on this in the last few months. They've been doing this in the wilderness for years, and they are really models of courage. Bradley Edwards and Brittany Henderson, who are the attorneys for the victims. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Roe and Thomas Massey. I really appreciate you putting forth this discharge petition. It's tough to understand that we have to be here because this doesn't seem like a partisan issue. This is an issue. Sex trafficking and sexual abuse transcends politics. We as Americans expect equal protection under the law, and there can be no doubt that Jeffrey Epstein received far greater protection than any of the victims that he abused for years. In 2008, Courtney Wild walked into my office because she was a part of a federal investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, where all she wanted was the government to talk to her. Little did she know the government had worked out a secret immunity deal for Jeffrey Epstein, and we had to file Jane Doe's versus United States of America to prove that Jeffrey Epstein worked out an illegal non-prosecution agreement with the government. That was 2008. It took us 10 years battling the government pro bono for the judge to ultimately determine that the victims' rights were violated. The government has mistreated them after Jeffrey Epstein mistreated them. We then filed civil lawsuits against Ghislaine Maxwell, which has resulted in her being in prison. Our civil lawsuits led to her prosecution. We filed lawsuits against Jeffrey Epstein, against his estate, and against two financial institutions, JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank, that proved that they knowingly provided the financial infrastructure for a sex trafficking operation. Unfortunately, all of the documents and evidence that we have worked so hard to gather hide behind protective orders, confidentiality agreements, and bank secrecy laws. That is why this discharge petition is so important. While we have seen the documents, you haven't. And when you see the documents, you're going to be appalled. And the American people deserve to see everything. When you sign this discharge petition, it should mean nothing is off limits. That means the documents in the possession of the CIA should be made available. Those in the possession of the FBI going back decades should be made available. The SEC, financial records in the possession of FinCEN should be made available. Everybody knows that evil flourishes in the darkness. Corruption flourishes in secrecy. It is time right now to make a difference for the women that are behind me right now. They have been courageous and fought through this whole thing. Whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, this one is an easy call. You're an American who cares about equal rights and equal protection under the law. If you care about these women, if you care about our country, and you care about this issue, this should pass with flying colors. I really appreciate everybody being here.
Hi, good morning. My name is Brittany Henderson, and I think in addition to thanking the wonderful congressmen and women who are here today, we need to thank the women, and not just the women who are going to speak, but the other women who are standing behind them, along with other lawyers, Sigrid McCauley, and people who have been fighting for a very, very long time for the world to give this kind of attention to an issue that it should have had forever. This administration has the opportunity to do what the past administrations did not do. This administration can either stand with the victims and stand for the victims, or it can continue to hurt the victims like has happened in the past. We aren't here just to ask for transparency, though. We're here, too, to ask for protection. The women here represent hundreds of other women who we have spoken to, many of whom were trafficked from other countries, from Eastern European countries where women don't have the rights that we have here. Women don't have the protections that we have here. And those women are terrified that their names will be released in these files. The government won't know that they're victims to redact and protect them. So we ask that you please, whoever is going to be in charge of redacting these files and in charge of this transparency, do it in a way that protects the women brave enough to be here, but also protects the women who are terrified that every day when they turn the TV on, something bad is going to happen to them in Ukraine, in Russia, in whatever country they live in, because no one is listening to them there. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And please protect these women while we seek transparency.
Good morning. My name is Anushka DeGiorgio, and I stand before you today as a survivor of both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. I want to thank Congressman Massey and Kana for their role in putting together this very, very important bill. Every day of this journey toward healing has come at a profound cost to my mental health. But I am here. I chose to come because this bill really matters. I speak today not only in service of my own recovery from trauma inflicted by Maxwell and Epstein, but to honor the lives, the courage, and sacrifices of Virginia Giuffre, Caroline Andriano, and others who could not continue. Their voices mattered. Their stories must not be forgotten. Accountability is what makes a society civilized. Equal opportunity and equal consequence for all. Consequences are not about punishment alone. They exist to deter future harm, to protect vulnerable, and to set a standard of justice. If Ghislaine Maxwell were pardoned, it would undermine all the sacrifices I made to testify and make mockery of mine and all survivors' suffering. That is why the Epstein Files Transparency Act is so essential. It requires the Department of Justice release all the records related to Epstein and Maxwell investigations, flight logs, immunity deals, internal communications, and even the records surrounding Epstein's detention and death. And crucially, it forbids withholding documents simply because of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. This is about ending secrecy wherever abuse of power takes root. But transparency alone is not enough. Survivors need protection, resources, and legal support. If this Congress is serious about justice, then let this moment also affirm your commitment to provide victims with the legal aid they need to confront abusers, to navigate complex systems, and to reclaim their power. Transparency must be matched by support, or else too many victims will remain silent out of fear and lack of access. The statistics demand action. Nearly 1 in 5 women in America will experience rape or attempted rape in her lifetime. Every 74 seconds, someone is sexually assaulted. Every 9 minutes, that person is a child. These are not numbers, they are people. They are your daughters, your sons, your constituents, your friends. Statistically, 1 in 5 of your families will face this nightmare. The days of sweeping this under the rug are over. We, the survivors, say no more. I want to help create a world where survivors of sexual abuse and abuse of power can come forward safely. And I ask Congress to join me in that effort, not only by passing this bill, but by ensuring that those who step forward have legal support to face their abusers and see justice done. When Judge Berman gave Epstein survivors the chance to finally speak, the world listened. After so many years, survivors were heard. That moment was historic, and so is this moment. For me, the turning point was when I had my daughter, and on the day she was born, I knew I had a responsibility to protect her and to protect all children. I have to use my voice, the voice that had been silenced by fear and shame for so many years. Make no mistake, my polished exterior is a shield hiding a wound that still bleeds. But through this wound, I have found purpose. To be part of lasting change in how we confront exploitation and abuse. And to be clear, the only motive for opposing this bill would be to conceal wrongdoing. You have a choice. Stand with the truth, or with the lies that have protected predators for decades. I am no longer weak. I am no longer powerless. And I'm no longer alone. And with your vote, neither will the next generation be. President Trump, you have so much influence and power in this situation. Please use that influence and power to help us, because we need it now and this country needs it now. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Annie Farmer, and I was 16 years old when I was flown to New Mexico to spend a weekend with Epstein and Maxwell. That same year, 1996, my sister, Maria Farmer, reported what happened to me there, along with reporting her own assault at their hands and their theft of sensitive photos of herself, of me, and our younger sister that she had taken for her work as a figurative painter. I am now 46 years old. 30 years later, we still do not know why that report wasn't properly investigated, or why Epstein and his associates were allowed to harm hundreds, if not thousands, of other girls and young women. We have never been told whether those images were found when they discovered a large amount of child sexual abuse material on his property. As a psychologist, I understand that when the systems meant to protect us recreate the abuse cycle, the betrayal that occurs can be just as damaging as the original trauma. This happens when survivors of these crimes are not believed, when our well-being is not weighed as heavily as those who have more resources or more privilege, and when perpetrators of these crimes are given a platform rather than the survivors of them. For so many years, it felt like Epstein's criminal behavior was an open secret. Not only did many others participate in the abuse, it is clear that many were aware of his interest in girls and very young women and chose to look the other way because it benefited them to do so. They wanted access to his circle and his money. Their choice to align with his power left those of us who had been harmed by this man and his associates feeling very isolated. I could never have imagined being here today and this chorus of support that we have all received. I have been sent so many notes and messages from people with no direct connection to this case who've expressed their solidarity with us. And I believe that is because, in part, as Anushka explained so well, this is an extremely widespread issue of child sexual abuse, of sexual exploitation, of sexual violence. This affects almost every family in some way. From my conversations with women in these last few days and from all of the support that we've received, it's very clear to me that we are not going away, we are not going to be quiet, and we are not going to give up. And I ask the American public to stand with us and not give up. At a time with record high levels of distrust in our institutions and a perception that there are two Americas, one for those with power and privilege and one for everyone else, passing this Epstein transparency bill is one important step that can be taken to prove to Americans that the government does not side with sexual perpetrators. A thorough public review of this information is an important step in preventing the type of systemic failures that have occurred in this case and harmed all of us. An important step towards healing for those involved. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to say thank you, everyone, for being here today on this very powerful and special day for all of us here. My name is Marina Lacerda. I was minor victim 1 in federal indictment of Jeffrey Epstein in New York in 2019. I was one of dozens of girls that I personally know who were forced into Jeffrey's mansion on 9 East 71 Street in New York City when we were just kids. Today is the first time that I ever speak publicly about what happened to me. I never thought that I would find myself here. The only reason that I am here is because it feels like the people who matter in this country finally care about what we have to say. As an immigrant from Brazil, I feel empowered knowing that the little girl struggling to get by at 14 and 15 years old finally has a voice. For the first time, I feel like I matter as an American. I was only 14 years old when I met Jeffrey. It was the summer of high school. I was working 3 jobs to try to support my mom and my sister when a friend of mine in the neighborhood told me that I could make $300 to give an older guy a massage. It went from a dream job to the worst nightmare. Jeffrey assistant Leslie Groff would call me and tell me that I needed to be at the house so often that I ended up dropping out of high school before 9th grade. And I never went back. From 14 to 17 years old, I went and worked for Jeffrey instead of receiving an education. Every day I hoped that he would offer me a real job as one of his assistants or something important, I would finally have made it big, as, like we say, the American dream. That day never came. I had no way out. I was, until he finally told me that I was too old. There are many pieces of my story that I can't remember, no matter how hard I try. The constant state of wonder causes me so much fear and so much confusion. My therapist says that my brain is just trying to protect itself, but it's so hard to begin to heal knowing that there are people out there who know more about my abuse than I do. The worst part is that the government is still in possession right now of the documents and information about that could help me remember and get over all of this, maybe, and help me heal. They have documents with my name on them that were confiscated from Jeffrey Epstein's house and could help me put the pieces of my own life back together. But I don't have any of it. And I know the same is true for many of these women. We are here to support this bill today, not only for transparency, but for the American people. But if the government is going to release these documents to the public, describing the crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein and others, the least that they can do is give me my documents that they have about me. The other survivors deserve the same respect from our government. While identifying information must be redacted to the public, it is equally important to provide the victims themselves with unredacted information. I will never forget when the FBI agent showed up in my door in 2008. Jeffrey Epstein hired a lawyer to represent me, or more like to represent him, I like to say. I couldn't ask any questions, and I had no idea what was going on. I was terrified. Until today, I think most of us are still terrified. I thought somebody was going to kill me. I thought something was going to happen to my sister or my mother. It went further out to even maybe thinking something would happen in Brazil with my family. And then one day, the lawyer said that everything was just going to go away. Like nothing happened. I didn't need to testify. When I asked him why, he gave no explanation. That was it. So why? Why was I never called to testify then? We could have saved so many women. We could have saved so many lives from being abused. Why did he get away with it in 2008? Why was he able to go on in the abuse with hundreds of girls after the Florida investigation? Why didn't they let me testify to help stop him? Our government could have saved so many women, but Jeffrey Epstein was too important and those women didn't matter. Why? Well, we matter now. We are here today and we are speaking and we are not going to stop speaking. Today, I stand here with the women who have really helped me to find the strength to come out and come forward to share my story for the very first time. Together, we are stronger than ever. While she may not be with us, Virginia Roberts, we will continue to use our voices to strengthen yours always. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Courtney Wild. I just wanted to take a second and just have a moment of silence for all the women survivors that aren't here with us today, that passed away due to anxiety, depression, trying to keep up with this case. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. My name is Courtney Wild. I was only 14 years old when I was introduced to Jeffrey Epstein by a 13-year-old friend of mine. The details of the abuse that he inflicted on me for years is not important today, In 2028, I was cooperating with the federal government in the investigation of Jeffrey Epstein. They sent me a letter telling me to be patient because this was going to be a lengthy investigation, but at the same time, they refused to talk to me and tell me what was going on. So I hired an attorney, Brad Edwards, because I was hopeful to get some answers. When I walked into his office at 19 years old, Brad sued the government for refusing to tell me what was going on under the Crime Victims' Rights Act. The only reason anyone ever found out that the government had already given Jeffrey Epstein immunity through the non-prosecution agreement was because our lawsuit forced the government to tell us. Otherwise, nobody would even know that today. Sometimes it's hard to believe that I had to sue the United States just to learn that my abuser was given immunity. I started as Jane Doe, but I decided I was proud enough to take on our country, and I was on the right side of history. We fought the government for 10 years to prove that the government violated our rights as crime victims and the crime victims' rights in order to protect a pedophile. We had to win the 11th Circuit Court appeals to force the government to turn over thousands of pages of emails between Jeffrey Epstein and the government. Those emails provided the proof that the government worked very hard with Jeffrey Epstein to violate our rights. Why? Why did the government work so hard to protect Jeffrey and not so hard to protect me and my other innocent friends? Why was Jeffrey so important to the government, and why was I so insignificant? Why did nobody but our lawyers care before now? It seems people have only started to care because of Twitter and politics. But I would like to say this has nothing to do with politics. This is not a blue thing or a red thing. This is an everyone thing. We can all agree on this. The injustice that has happened here, multiple, over and over. Everybody that talks about this just seems to make it worse. We need transparency. It's time for us to see beyond the curtain. Why was Jeffrey Epstein so protected? Who is still being protected? And who protected them all, so the world can understand how Jeffrey was able to abuse so many of us for so long? I was lucky to have Brad Edwards, Brittany Henderson, and Paul Cassell take on my case pro bono and fight fearlessly over 20 years' time. I would like to thank them, and I'd also like to ask the Trump administration to please sign off on the Crime Victims' Rights Reformed Act, the Courtney Wild Crime Victims' Rights Reformed Act that's we're trying to get passed here, so we can close the loopholes in the CVRA case that Epstein's attorney used to their benefit to get away with this. Thank you so much.
Good morning. First and foremost, we want to extend our deepest gratitude to Brad and Brittany Edwards, Congressman Massey and Kana, and above all, the brave survivors who have entrusted us with the privilege of speaking today on behalf of Virginia. Robert Giuffre, as her family. We are here today because we support H.Res.581, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, in its entirety. But as much as this bill is about shining a light on truth, it's not just about the bill. This is about justice. This is about survivors. This is about justice against the rich and powerful who have stolen something from these women and many children at the time, their freedom. The freedom to live their life without mental and physical scars that have been inflicted upon them by those who thought they were untouchable. The same freedom that these monsters took from these survivors, they should never be afforded. They should never be allowed to continue their lives with impunity. Let's be clear. This is not a political issue. This is not about left or right. This is about humanity. This is about doing what's right. And this is about ensuring that the future we leave behind isn't one where the powerful can hide behind their wealth, their influence, and their money to evade justice. Our plea to you, whether you're a dad, a mom, a brother, or a sister, look your young ones in the face, look them in the eye, and tell them you didn't stand against the very people who raped, molested, and preyed upon children and young women. Tell them you were willing to negotiate a deal. Money should never be what makes something right or wrong. If you vote no, your stance will be clear. You will be choosing to stand on the side of the rich and powerful, allowing money to buy your way out of the consequence. But here's my one ask. Look these survivors in the eye and tell them why. Then look the people of the United States in the eye and tell them why. And then, when you're alone, look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself why. Virginia said it best, and I quote, "I have physical and mental scars that will never heal. I have memories that will never go away. They say time can heal, but this won't. Not until the justice system makes an example out of these people with so-called privileges. I just call it money. The only time I can begin to heal is when their freedom is taken from them, just like they did to me and literally thousands of other victims. The survivors of this horrific abuse are watching. The American people are watching. And history is watching. Which side will you be on?" Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jenna Lisa Jones, and I was only 14 years old when my friend brought me over to Jeffrey Epstein's house in Palm Beach in 2003. I had a terrible home life, but I was such an innocent kid then. I always did my best in school, and I had such a positive outlook on life. Until that day that I met Jeffrey, I have never been more scared in my life than I was that first time that he hurt me. I remember crying the entire way home, thinking about how I couldn't ever tell anyone about what actually happened in that house. This guy was so rich and had so many pictures with so many famous people, and no one would have ever believed me if I told them. I want to thank Congressman Rowe and Congressman Thomas Massey for having me here today. It was really hard for me to find my voice and to become strong enough to speak about my abuse. I didn't come forward until 2019, and even then it was like I was afraid of a ghost. I know that I was just a little kid, but sometimes I still feel like it is my fault that this happened. Being given the opportunity to speak at the United States Capitol building about something that is so important, not just to me and the women before you, but to the entire country. Together, we can finally make a change. And that is thanks to the people like these two congressmen and their teams who actually care about the victims. If you are a member of Congress and you are listening to all of us speak here today, please really listen to us. Please vote for this bill to be passed. Please recognize how important it is for transparency relating to Jeffrey Epstein. Whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, this does not matter. This is not about sides. You are an American, and you are a person who has chosen to serve in an elected position to stand up for those you represent who cannot always stand up for themselves. We are those people. We are the Americans that you promised to protect. And we need your help. Please, President Trump, pass this bill and help us. Make us feel like our voices are finally being heard. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Haley Robson. I was a 16-year-old high school student athlete who made good grades and had high aspirations for college when I was recruited and asked by a classmate of mine alongside with a 20-year-old male if I wanted to give an old rich guy a massage. But what high school girl would not want to do that? That day changed my life forever. And when I got into the massage room, Jeffrey Epstein undressed and asked me to do things to him. My eyes welled up with tears, and I have never been more scared in my life. When it was over, he paid me $200 and requested in exchange that I bring a girl each time to make another $200. I told him I did not want to do that, and then he gave me an ultimatum. Either you come here and massage me when I call you, or you bring me friends of yours to massage, and I will give you $200 per girl for each time she comes. I felt and hoped to never hear from him again, but he called me every day. He was so wealthy and powerful, and he would not let me go. I felt I had no choice. If I disobeyed him, I knew something bad would happen. So knowing I did not want to be sexually abused, I started to bring him other girls from my high school, and he paid me $200 for bringing them. I just hoped each time it would be the last time. One day, the stepmom of one of the girls brought him and called the police on Jeffrey Epstein. The police then called me in for questioning. I had told them the truth despite the fact that I was a teenager and a minor, and I was able to tell the police the names of all the other victims. The police treated me like a criminal. I had, by this time, had turned 18. I had been with Jeffrey since I was 16 and for 2 years. So they had told me So they told me I was going to be arrested. My name was then distributed to the press as a co-conspirator of my abuser, who I detested. My entire world was crashing in around me, and I started being threatened and bullied, till this day still receiving death threats. I was singled out and for many years had to suffer a smear campaign of lies about me because of the way that I was portrayed by the press. The press made me out to be a predator when I was just a 16-year-old little girl who was sexually abused by a powerful man and an evil man. For years, I had no friends. My boyfriend was murdered, and there was nowhere to turn. The government, after investigating more, learned that I was true a victim, but the damage was done and it was too late. There was no way to undo the harm the press had caused me. In 2019, I met Brad Edwards and Brittany Henderson. They changed my life, and they believed in me and have helped me to finally heal. Healing is a process, and I may never get there. But the passage of this bill requiring the government to produce all the evidence that it has gathered on Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell is a huge component of healing for me and for the many other women who have suffered for so long. For many reasons. First, we and the rest of the world need answers. Why was he so protected? And why didn't anyone ever care to stop him? It doesn't take a brain surgeon to know that if he is spending thousands of dollars a day paying high school girls he abuses and had a lot of access to cash. I learned through my attorneys in the JP Morgan class action case that there were years when his staff withdrew over $1 million in cash a year. Was that not a big enough red flag? There were wire transfers to other victims, and the government did not protect us. The banks did not protect us. So lift the curtain on these files and be transparent. Every single time a new conspiracy gets circulated in the media, whether he is still alive, what powerful person had him murdered, who was on the Epstein client list, and there are names going around on TikTok and Instagram, we, the survivors, are suffering. We take our kids to school and everyone is talking about it. We can't read the news or do anything without hearing crazy stories that are only able to live on because the government continues to hide the evidence and the truth. So people just make up stories. Those stories hurt. They hurt real people who have already been hurt. And we have lost so many Epstein victims to suicide, and maintaining the real truth in secrecy only allows for conspiracy theorists to tell lies that drives up our anxiety and fears and will continue to lead to more pain, more suffering, and honestly, more deaths of innocent victims. It's time you do is right by us. unseal all the documents. We are requesting transparency, and I am requesting every congressman and woman that goes against this bill be outed. I want to know. Thank you.
Tear into the press and tear into Congress.
Hi there. My name is Lisa Phillips, and I'm the host of a award-nominated podcast called From Now On, a platform supporting survivors. I want to thank all of my survivor sisters who came before me today. I'll be very short. In the year 2000, I was taken to Jeffrey Epstein's island while on a photo shoot on a nearby island. Who I saw and what I experienced there was a glimpse into a very dark and disturbing world. For years after, I tried to avoid Jeffrey, but he had introduced me to Katie Ford, the owner of the Ford Modeling Agency. Epstein's reach went to the very top of fashion, arts, and entertainment. This did not just happen to underage girls in Florida. In New York City, hundreds of young, ambitious women were abused by him. Epstein was not just a serial predator, he was an international human trafficker. And many around him knew, many participated, and many profited. And yet, he was protected. So I stand here today for every woman who has been silenced, exploited, and dismissed. We are not asking for pity. We are here demanding accountability, and I'm demanding justice. Congress must choose. Will you continue to protect predators, or will you finally protect survivors? And also, I would like to announce here today, us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list. We know the names. Many of us were abused by them. Now, together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names we all know who were regularly in the Epstein world. And it will be done by survivors and for survivors. No one else is involved. Stay tuned for more details.
Hello, my name is Shantae Davies, and I'm here before you today as a survivor of decades of pain, trauma, and betrayal at the hands of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, and the people who enabled them, and a government that for far too long refused to help. In 2002, I was living in California, a young woman with high aspirations of becoming an actress. I was already beginning to make a name for myself in the industry. A person I trusted, someone I thought was a friend, invited me to meet a powerful woman who could help advance my career. That woman happened to be Ghislaine Maxwell. I was asked to give her a massage, though I had almost no experience, and when I did, she praised me and promised introductions to someone enormously powerful, someone who could change the course of my life, and that man was Jeffrey Epstein. At first, I was an excited young woman on top of the world. Epstein flew me to his private island. He listened to my dreams, promised to help, but his promises came with a catch. The abuse began. He told me to keep it secret. He manipulated me with quid pro quo I did not consent to, but I felt I had no one to turn to. He was too powerful. I was just one of the many young women trapped in his orbit. I was even taken on a trip to Africa with former President Bill Clinton and other notable figures. In those moments, I realized how powerless I was. If I spoke out, who would believe me? Who would protect me? Epstein himself was the most powerful leader of our country. Epstein surrounded himself, with the most powerful leaders of our country and the world. He abused not only me, but countless others, and everyone seemed to look away. The truth is, Epstein had a free pass. He bragged about his powerful friends, including our current president, Donald Trump. It was his biggest brag, actually. And what I endured will haunt me forever. I live every day with PTSD. I live as a mother trying to raise my child while distrusting a world that has betrayed me. This kind of trauma never leaves you. It breaks families apart. It shapes the way we see everyone around us. But one thing is certain, unless we learn from this history, monsters like Epstein will rise again. There are files, government files, that hold the truth about Epstein, who he knew, who owed him, who protected him, and why he was allowed to operate for so long without consequence. Why was Maxwell the only one held accountable when so many others played a role? Why does the government hide this information from the public? This secrecy is not protection, it's complicity. And as long as the truth is buried, justice will remain out of reach. That is why this bill matters. Passing it will, bless you, ensure that the suffering of survivors is not in vain. Passing it will bring accountability, transparency, and prevention. It will help protect the next generation of predators who seek to place themselves above the law through wealth, influence, and connections. This is not just my story. It is about every survivor who carries invisible scars. It's about the weight we live with daily. It is about the families broken and the futures stolen. So I ask you, President Trump and members of Congress, why do we continue to cover up sexual abuse and assault? Who are we covering for? Let the public know the truth. We cannot heal without justice. We cannot protect the future if we refuse to confront the past. Thank you.
Let's just give a round of applause for all the courage and strength that the survivors have shown. We now will take a few questions. You can always get Congressman Massey, me, or Congresswoman Green in the hallways and other places. If you have questions for us, that's fine. But I wanted to see first if you have questions for the lawyers and the survivors, and Brad will facilitate any of the questions to the survivors. Yes.
Yeah. This question would be for the survivors, Mr. Edwards. The president has said that this Epstein issue is a hoax, is the words that he used. Can we get your reactions to what you think when you hear him say that?
Oh, I'll answer that. Mr. President Donald J. Trump, I am a registered Republican, not that that matters because this is not political. However, I cordially invite you to the Capitol to meet me in person so you can understand this is not a hoax. We are real human beings. This is real trauma.
What does it feel like emotionally to hear that?
Devastating.
It's being gutted from the inside out. Not that I would know what that feels like, but I imagine it's the anxiety buildup with the depression and the survival mode, and then your nervous system goes limp and ironically is shot. And it feels like you just want to explode inside because nobody, again, is understanding that this is a real situation. These women are real. We're here in person. To say that it's a hoax is just not. Please humanize us. I would like Donald J. Trump and every person in America and around the world to humanize us, to see us for who we are and to hear us for what we have to say. There is no hoax. The abuse was real. Now, what goes on behind closed doors, I can't speak for that. What happens around the world politically, I cannot speak for that. But I am here with all of these women, including our attorneys, and I would be more than happy to meet with him, and I will meet him halfway.
Mr. Edwards, I wonder if any of the victims could respond to the news from recently about Ghislaine Maxwell being transferred to a lower security prison in the aftermath of speaking to Todd White.
You want that one?
About her transfer to a...
Oh, yeah.
I'm happy to speak to that. We were horrified to learn that she had been transferred to a prison camp. She is someone who was found guilty by a jury of sex trafficking. She not only, we often hear that she procured women for Jeffrey, which I think is a very sort of polite and minimizing term. She also participated in the abuse. She was a major architect of the scheme. And the fact that she has painted herself as a victim, I think is disgusting. And it was horrifying, I think, to us that we were not told about her prison transfer. We found out about it in the news.
Mm-hmm.
1 minute, I think Anushka maybe.
So, Anushka DeGiorgio, I testified alongside Annie at the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. I was horrified when I found out not only had Ghislaine Maxwell been transferred to what's called a low security. It's really is like a holiday camp, and then Afterwards, I got a notification from the Department of Justice telling me that this was going to happen when it had already happened. This woman abused children. I was abused by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell for over 10 years. Ghislaine Maxwell was present for some of my abuse at the hand of Jeffrey Epstein. She was present, she was complicit, she was enabling, and it is appalling and disgusting. And it's one of my worst nightmares that she not only be transferred, but at the possibility that's very much going around that she might be pardoned. This is not okay, guys. This is not okay.
And I just want to add that I think it sends a very dangerous message to our country, to the young people in our country, that someone that we all know is aware of these crimes could be given a pass.
And just for the last survivor who just spoke, the last survivor who just spoke, she said that Epstein would brag about her relationship with Donald Trump. Could she please elaborate about that?
And anybody who
Shante.
can get to the microphones.
Get close.
Yeah, I did say that. My first trip to the Palm Beach residence, I drove there from the airport with Ghislaine Maxwell, and Jeffrey and Ghislaine were always very boastful about their friends, their famous or powerful friends, and his biggest brag forever was that he was very good friends with Donald Trump. He had an 8x10 framed picture of him on his desk with the two of them. Like, they were very close.
Go ahead.
On this client list that you survivors are, excuse me.
One second.
For this client list that you ladies are putting together, you said it would be confidential, but will the public? Could you clarify? Will the public get to see that?
So, Lisa, what's your envision here?
Is it going to go to the public or just amongst the survivors?
No, we're reaching out to survivors that are scared.
So come on up.
We're reaching out to survivors that are scared to come forward and that also know who they were trafficked to. So that's the list that we're compiling. We're not quite sure, how we're going to release that, or even if we're going to. The Department of Justice needs to release the list.
Right, because for folks at home, they might be confused. The survivors know the names. You've seen these powerful people. Why can't you say the names? Could you just explain for folks?
Why do we have to say the names when the government knows the names? And we're also scared to do so. Look what's happened to so many of the survivors that have revealed names.
Yeah, I find the question about the bill.
I think it's also worth saying that having represented, I think, between our firm and Boyce Schiller, hundreds of victims, and we've talked to them about the various people that they were farmed out to. So we've created somewhat of a list. Most of these individuals, the victims, are very scared to say these names because they could get sued, they're going to get attacked, and nobody protected them the first time. And that was against one person. So is there a list? There is a list, but just to dispel kind of the common theme here, every one of these women was abused by Jeffrey Epstein, and his scheme was to personally abuse women. When they reached a certain age, he did farm a section of them, some of them, out to some of his friends. That doesn't mean all of his friends. With that said, I'm more than happy to assist in helping create the list behind the scenes and see what we do with it.
But if someone's interested,
Go ahead.
Hold on. I think if someone's interested in prosecuting, they may have something different to say about sharing a list, but they're not sharing a list for nothing to happen. And that's the experience that they've had for all of these years.
Yeah, go.
Thank you all. We're waiting to see the fate of this discharge petition right now as we're here. The speaker and others have said that the people he met with yesterday had concerns about your names being released if this bill were passed. And some people I talked to today are not signing the discharge petition because they say you don't want them to. Can you clarify if that is accurate?
Do any of the survivors here not want the bill to pass?
Yeah.
First of all, our legislation, Ro Khanna and I went through this. We talked about this, and we were very careful to make sure that there is an exception so that personally identifiable information, not just their names, but anything they could be identified by, would not be disclosed.
And can you speak to that as survivors yourself? Just
I think all of them are on the same page. That they want everything released. Yes, they unequivocally redact personally identifying information and release everything else. Okay.
Mr. Edwards, thank you.
Uh-oh. Yeah, sure.
Marina, you have stayed silent for so many years. Today, this is the first time, if you understand correctly, you have never before gone public with your story and to share this. Can you help us understand why today, why now, and why here?
Well, it is not okay for us to be silenced, and it's not okay for Jeffrey Epstein and everybody else to be put on a pedestal. I think everybody needs to hear from us because we know what went on, right? And there is not only me who's been silenced, there are hundreds of women that are silenced. My hope is to stop this abuse for the future, right? For people that are coming up, for women. My daughter, for example, these women have daughters. They most definitely don't want that anymore. And I think mainly this is therapy for all of us too. You know, we want to be heard. Nobody also has never asked me to speak. That's also another thing. So I can say for all of us here, we are here. We want this bill to pass. It is very important. Okay. And we need transparency. We are tired of looking at the news and seeing Jeffrey Epstein's name and saying that this is a hoax. We are tired of it. We are done. We're not going to be silenced. And I hope that my voice will bring other survivors and other victims to come along and speak up so that we can be more of a stronger voice and louder. I don't want to send a direct message to him. I'm already scared enough. Yeah. Just pass the vote. Listen to us. This is not a hoax. Like, it's not going to go away. And like I said on my speech earlier, we're not going to be silenced anymore. We will be speaking moving forward wherever we need to be. We will be, and we need to pass this.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Jordan Conrad, Gateway Pundit. For years we've heard that there was an Epstein client list or some kind of list. Now we hear from DOJ that there's no list. But across victims, what do you guys think? I know you're working on your own list, but do you believe that Jeffrey Epstein had a list?
Yeah. So there's not a list.
Yeah.
So here's what it was. Just like you heard everybody today, Jeffrey Epstein created through an organization that of enablers, of people that were on his payroll. It was a complicated scheme where others should still be investigated because they helped to enable him and operate this scheme. Without those people, he could not have done this. But the purpose was for him to personally abuse people. With that being said, certain of his friends, he farmed out certain of the women that he was exploiting too. But that wasn't the primary purpose of that scheme. And I don't think he wrote the names of those people down. There's not a list of, hey, here's all of the people that I sent females to. That's just not how that organization worked.
Mr. Edwards,
Agreed?
Is there any evidence that Jeffrey Epstein was involved with or tied to the CIA or a foreign intelligence operation?
I think that the safest thing for me to say is all files should come out, whether it is for this with the CIA, FinCEN, SEC, FBI. I'm not just making these up haphazardly. I'm giving you a roadmap where to look. Go ahead. I'll go first and then I'll let them. They're much more important than me, but I don't understand why it's a hostile act. I can tell you that I talked to President Trump back in 2009, and several times after that, he didn't think that it was a hoax then. In fact, he helped me. He got on the phone. He told me things that were helping our investigation. Now, our investigation wasn't looking into him, but he was helping us then. He didn't treat this as a hoax. So at this point in time, I would hope that he would revert back to what he was saying to get elected, which is, I want transparency. This about face that occurred, none of us understand it. In fact, I don't understand how this is an issue that's even up for debate. How do you not stand behind these women after you've heard their stories and know that hundreds of them were abused, and it was only because files are being kept in secrecy? The world should know who he is, who protected him, and the other people that are out there to be investigated need to be investigated.
Sir,
Go ahead.
Are there any people who are currently serving in government who are named, who you know of, are in these files, who you had relations with, anything of that sort who Jeffrey Epstein connected you with? Are you willing to say yes or no?
I don't think I can answer that. Sorry.
I think she's referring to my speech. She's got to get
Hi, Anushka DeGiorgio. I have been threatened. I was threatened by phone. My daughter was threatened when I was volunteering to participate in, by means of being a witness in a civil lawsuit that Virginia Giuffre was bringing against Ghislaine Maxwell. I have been followed. I have been stalked. I have been followed not only by journalists, but by people who do not get out of the car and do not try and talk to me and just drive behind me as I drive my daughter to school. So the fear is very real for us. I have also been in multiple situations with both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, where they have been direct and indirect about implying and saying that if I was to talk, if I was to bring any kind of trouble, then there would be severe consequence, including death.
And just to add to that, Maxwell also threatened my sister Maria Farmer. When the FBI did nothing about her initial report, we did. She reported individually at that time, and then in 2002, we spoke to a reporter at Vanity Fair, telling our stories, fearful that perhaps other people were being harmed. We were not. We believed that was going to make a difference. We believed that would be put in print, and that story was crushed. And it was because of their power, and the message that we got from that was direct threats from Maxwell to my sister about her well-being and her safety and that of our family. So I think many people have similar stories of threats. That has been a very real part of this case.
Go ahead, over here.
Do any of today's survivors speaking, anybody here ever have any connection or interaction with Epstein's alleged financier, Leslie Wexner?
No.
Nope.
Do you want to address
Well,
that?
I just want to say it's one thing that's very clear. When people say, please share names, there are names that are very well known, like that of Les Wexner, who everyone knows supplied an enormous amount of Epstein's financial wealth and allowed this operation to happen. So it's, I think, confusing to many of us why there have not been more ramifications for him, and he's been seen as a victim when clearly I believe there's more to it.
Yep.
Yeah. So you represented Virginia Roberts for years. She eventually had to recant the allegations that she made against Alan Dershowitz. She alleged that.
We're not talking. All right, next question.
Next question.
Thank you.
Who's next?
Why is it that she should be?
Yeah, no, we're not answering your question. Anybody else?
Go ahead.
How did the victims feel about the interview that was given to Ghislaine Maxwell?
There's a woman trying to say something.
That's
better. Okay, ma'am, I think that you had a question.
We're not good. Thank you for going to my question. Okay?
Oh my God.
About the existence of the Epstein book. Have you yourself in the post litigation seen it?
I don't know that we're able to reveal what we've seen and what we have not seen by way of protective order. But my point being in that circumstance was, if anybody wants answers, there's an easy place to get it. I told you where to get it. I said the estate of Jeffrey Epstein has it. Serve a subpoena on them. They'll turn it over. And if we had served a subpoena on them in the past, they would have turned it over and we would have seen it, which I don't usually miss subpoenas like that. So there we go. Go ahead.
Let me just say one thing on that.
To your question about the allegations, there's a simple answer. Release the files. Let the American public decide. Instead of harassing, I gave you your say. Look.
You're hired by Dershowitz.
You've been heard. And even Alan Dershowitz says release the files. Release the files. That is the answer, and that's what we're here for. And that is
You gotta go. You gotta go.
Goodbye.
Can you elaborate on the
Sorry. Yeah.
You said that Donald Trump gave you help in 2009. Can you elaborate
on your interactions with Donald Trump back in 2009? And for any of the victims, they didn't ever see the president, well then not the president yet, but they never see Trump with Epstein in any way.
I don't know who's. I don't think that we can answer that question. Did anybody see Trump with Epstein back then? This is really not a political thing. We want the passage of the bill, and this is not to call out President Trump. My point was that he was friendly back then, did not think that it was a hoax, and was trying to help. And now it seems like all of a sudden somebody's in his ear and he's not. So I'm hoping he'll come back to where he was back in 2009, be on the side of the victims, and stand with us. Go ahead. Did you answer that? Do you want to answer it? Teresa will step up.
I would, Teresa J. Home. Happy to speak on that, because what I will say is she got this airtime and platform. Her voice was elevated way before our voices were elevated here today. And that same calm, manipulative voice that she had so polite there that day with Todd Blanche was the same polite, coercive, manipulative voice that I heard as she was grooming me to then send me off to the home of Jeffrey Epstein, where he would assault me. So that's what she was doing for hours, speaking with me, building relationship with me, building trust with me, allowing me to believe that I was going to get this job, a dream job that I had been recruited from my college, flown across the country from Los Angeles to New York City to interview, so I thought. So her voice that day was the same voice that sent me off to a monster. So nothing can be believed from what she says, because she's been charged with perjury. I myself could sit there and listen, and as I did, I sat there and listened to this woman's voice lie. And there was no pushback from Todd Blanche, because does he even have the facts to be able to push back on her? We could sit there and push back. Why didn't we get to attend that? Why weren't we there that day? Or why wasn't even one of us consulted prior to that day in that meeting? And why on earth has she been moved from Florida to her? It basically is prison spa. I mean, let's be real. None of us were consulted. I found out, just like everyone here found out, through the media, through all of you. We found out about Ghislaine's transfer. So I'm very angry to sit there and listen. The feelings that come up listening to this woman's voice is repulsive. Yes, I would say it's triggering. We all work very hard on healing, and it still gets to us after 2 decades. It's a very long answer, but it's repulsive to sit there and listen to her voice in her interview.
Can we take two more questions? One over here.
My reporting in Vanity Fair directly led to a $100 million payment from JP Morgan to the Virgin Islands. Will you go after the DOJ, the FBI, because they're sitting on evidence? I've held the evidence in my hands.
I think that there's nobody that's immune from us going after them if there's a legitimate action to take. So to the extent that evidence exists, then show it to us, and we'll help in every way we can. We stand with the victims. Okay. One more.
Can the survivors speak to speaking up, being threatened, and being afraid to come forward with the story, to the case of Katie Johnson, who alleged that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein?
I don't think we can talk about. I don't think we can talk about that case. I do think it's worth saying, though, despite the comments that he made, Virginia Roberts Giuffre is an American hero. She is somebody without whom we would not be able to have this voice. She was the one who had courage to name names, speak out against people, and she was standing up against everybody at one time with an enormous amount of pressure.
And most of these women are here because of Virginia Roberts Giuffre. So.
All right, last one.
Clearly not us.
I don't think that anybody knows, but I can tell you that in the oversight committee meeting yesterday, they indicated that they were all for transparency, releasing the files, and asked us to hold them accountable. Isn't that right?
Yes.
They said hold them accountable, so we intend to hold them accountable.
It's up to them.
We're going to show them where to go with it, and as long as they're doing their job, they should. I'm going to turn it back over to Ro Khanna. Thank you.
Let me just say this. Let me say this. I think the people back who are testifying here today or speaking out today, they are American heroes. Let's give them another round of applause. And you say, look, Thomas, Marjorie, and I, we're huge believers in the First Amendment, and we believe in free speech, and we take abuse all the time. But you see why it's so hard to do what they have done, because they come forward and you subject yourself to national scrutiny and national questioning. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart how appreciative I am and how proud I am of what you've done today. You made a big difference. Before I bring on Marjorie and then Thomas will have the last word, I want to summarize three basic things that I heard from the survivors. First, they want to know why our government covered up for someone rich and powerful. Why is it that we have two Americas? People say, why do you need to release the Epstein files if Epstein is dead and Maxwell is in jail? Because we don't know who all was involved in the cover-up. Why are there rich and powerful people who didn't have justice? They want to know that. Second, many said it's important for their own closure. They don't know their own abuse. They want to understand what's in these files for themselves. And third, we heard that there are many others who obviously were involved. And they want to know, and the American people deserve to know what was there in those files. I actually think they're helping us come together as a country. I've never done a press conference with Marjorie Taylor Greene before. I've done some with Tuss, but look, this country is divided and exhausted. This is one thing that we can come together on. Yeah. And I was very clear with Thomas. This is not against President Trump. I would like nothing more than a Truth Social post for him after this press conference saying, just release the files. Be with Massie Khanna. This is about something much deeper. It is about bringing this country together to stand for America's kids, to restore trust, and to move this country forward. So thank you to the survivors for helping us do that. Now I want to introduce Marjorie Taylor Greene. Thank you.
Thank you. For everyone watching at home, I think it's important to put yourself in these women's shoes. As you're questioning, why can't they just name the names? What you don't realize is they just told their stories of being raped and being abused, being victimized, being manipulated, being coerced, and basically held in a prison of captivity of sexual abuse while they were young teenagers and extremely young, vulnerable women. And in Jeffrey Epstein's home and the places they went with him, they saw the most powerful people in the world in his pictures, and they saw him with those people. Can you imagine how terrifying it would be to name names like that? These are some of the richest, most powerful people in the world that could sue these women into poverty and homelessness. Yeah, it's a scary thing to name names, but I will tell you, I'm not afraid to name names. And so if they want to give me a list, I will walk in that Capitol on the House floor and I'll say every damn name that abused these women. I can do that for them, and I'd be proud to do it. Now, another thing, this is not about politics, and this is a boiling point in American history where the American people, just like Ro just said, there's become two Americas. There's the America for the rich and the powerful and the elite, where they never face any struggles or problems and never experience what real America goes through. And then there's forgotten America that faces all the problems and deals with all the issues and never gets justice for being sexually assaulted and raped by a monster. It shouldn't exist anymore, and people are sick of it. So let's recognize the fact that the administration before and the one before it and the one before it and the one before it and before it never did anything about this. So this isn't one political party or the other. It's a culmination of everyone worked together to silence these women and protect Jeffrey Epstein and his cabal. And this is not just rich, powerful people. Think his drivers, his maids, his chefs, all the people, people that worked in his home, security guards. I heard one story from a young woman that was being raped by Jeffrey Epstein when he was out on work release while he was serving time in prison and had an ankle monitor on his leg. Guess what? There was a police officer outside that door. So this list of names is quite a list of names, and it doesn't extend just in the rich, powerful circles. It extends down to the very bottom where people were paid. And again, I will say this, there's victims suffering today in similar circumstances, and they're terrified to name the names of the people that are currently abusing them. And so with these brave, courageous women fighting this fight, this is a fight for women and children and any person that is facing sexual abuse and rape and captivity and human trafficking right now. And so here's what I ask you in the press. Don't go for salacious headlines. Go for the truth and defend these women and help those of us in Congress that are crossing our political party lines for doing the right thing and trying to do it together. And thank you, Ro, and thank you, Thomas. And now I recognize Thomas Massey from Kentucky.
Well, there's three branches of government, and we're supposed to keep each other accountable. And that's what we're doing here today in the People's House. We're standing in front of the People's House with real people, not a hoax. And they've told their story. We wanted to give them a platform to speak, and they've had it. They stepped up, and they were brave. But I also today hope that they would persuade my colleagues to join this effort. But I found out something today that happened that I wasn't expecting. They persuaded me to fight even harder. I'm not going to give up. And I want to end with this call to action. First, a call to action to my colleagues who just an hour before this press conference were prepared. They were given a fig leaf. We'll put a resolution on the floor so that you can say that you voted to protect the survivors. The resolution doesn't really do anything. And that's the oldest trick in the swamp. When you want to kill the momentum, when you want to kill initiative, you introduce a placebo, a different bill that does nothing, and then try to pull the wool over the eyes of the American people. That's not going to happen. We demand real accountability. I encourage my colleagues, please, there's over 200 Republicans who have not signed this discharge petition. We only need 2 of them to sign it, and every Democrat will sign it. And that will get us the number we need to force this vote, to pass a law, not a polite request to the DOJ to police themselves. No, we need legally binding legislation to force that to happen. And my main call to action is to the people watching these live feeds that are going through these cameras right now. Congressmen, listen to you. Light up their phones. Burn down the phone lines here in Washington, D.C. Ask them the questions that these survivors wanted you to ask them. Why won't you be for transparency? Don't accept their answer that the bill has a flaw or that the survivors don't want it. We know that's not true. They wouldn't be fighting it so hard in this town if it wasn't the real bill. So with that, please call your congressman. Tell him or her to get on this bill and to stand up for these survivors. Thank you and God bless. That's the end.
Thank you guys very much. This is unbelievable. Thank you so much.
day when one of Epstein's victims said he used to brag all the time about his best friends, including the president of the United States, Donald Trump. And so when I sat back, one thing really kind of struck a chord with me is the lengths that every administration since the year 2000, maybe before, has gone to protect Jeffrey Epstein while re-victimizing and vilifying each one of these women, each one of these victims as children that were not taken seriously. No one ever came to take their statement or accounts. They were told in one case, one woman who helped Jeffrey Epstein recruit at the age of 16, her name's
16.
Maria Lacerda, at the age of 16, saying that the police tried to charge her with basically being a madam.
I
And
think they did. I
until
think
they did,
did
yeah,
actually. Yeah,
absolutely.
they exposed her and did. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, D.
No, it's just the systemic failure of government, of law enforcement to protect children. And now that we're at the precipice of getting this, which is why everybody was there, they want a discharge position put together. They want the order to come out. They need 2 more votes. You got fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene and a few other Republicans that have switched sides, stood next to Ro Khanna, Thomas Massey, and these victims in this incredible moment when you've got another couple hundred GOP members who sat and watched
Well, that's
these
the key.
women go, I'm out. I want nothing to do with it. And then top that off, and Lev, I'll throw it to you after this. Top that off with a distinct and very public threat that Donald Trump launched at everyone who hasn't signed this discharge petition to not sign it, or he will view that as a hostile act they're taking against the president of the United States. And there's only one fucking reason Donald Trump would do or say any of that, would call it a hoax today. That's because that fucking guy is right in the middle of this whole thing.
Oh, I mean, and this is one of the things. Maybe and I don't want to. I want to always keep our eye on the ball, but we're trying to let the voices be heard, and this is what I want to say. We know, and this is what you said. Donald Trump's pudgy fingers, or whatever you want, little fingers, little hands, are all over this thing. Okay, we know he's completely involved. This is what, and we talk about it all the time. I mean, we know the reports, we have the sources. We've heard Epstein in his own voice with Wolf talk about his relationship with Trump. I mean, Zev has done extensive reporting. We've had plenty. I mean, the victims themselves. I mean, that we know is for a fact. Just like we know for a fact, Donald Trump is a convicted felon. He could go there and say it's it's a hoax. He says it, but that also is a hoax. But we know he's a convicted felon. So we know Donald Trump is involved. So we know, and this is the thing I want to say. But there's certain people that need to start getting held accountable, and it's not only the people that did the crime, but the people covering up the crime are just as involved in this. People like James Comer in Congress, people like Johnson, the leader, what's it called?
Mike Johnson, Mega Mike, Jim Jordan.
Jordan, all of these people that go up there on their pulpit, talk about how religious they are, how they protect women's rights, how they do all of this. This is identical. What is different than having Epstein commit the crime, or Maxwell bring him in there, when these guys are in the most powerful position right now? Instead of releasing the files right now, signing this agreement and making this whole thing and just release the files, they're covering it up. So yeah, Donald Trump is a piece of shit, and he could say all he wants and does that. We know that. But what about each other? Why are we letting them slide? How are these pieces of shit in Congress and Senate that are being covering it up are even worse right now and should be held accountable? Right now, they shouldn't be able to walk through the streets without being asked the questions and put on the spotlight. They're the ones, because it's not Donald Trump that's covering this up. He can't cover it up. They're the ones they're covering up, because they're the ones they're being his tool.
Yeah.
So we need to call it what it is right now.
This is such a big operation,
Great
right?
point.
This is an operation that was done on America and done on the GOP and done on Donald Trump as well, even though he's, clearly participated in these horrific things that he's done over the years. This is an operation of foreign intelligence to a large extent. And one of the questions there is, was about the CIA. One of the questions there was about the FinCEN documents. And the reason why Those two things are so important, and Brad Edwards could not talk to them specifically. It's because those are classified documents right now. But we need to be able to know the scale of this operation. This was done by Russia primarily, but by others, by Israel possibly, and many others, to try and create the situation we're in now, where they have a Manchurian president. This is really a very large scale operation, and maybe it involved the people in the CIA. And because of that, or some people in the CIA, or other people in the deep state, because of that, a lot of people have been covering this up in different ways. Maybe they didn't know the full story. Maybe they only knew some of the stuff, and they're covering up just to protect some of it. But they didn't realize that all of it is connected. I don't even think Donald Trump realized all of it is connected until recently. So, as you were pointing out, Lev, earlier. So I think, we've got a massive crisis, obviously, in our hands. And by letting the truth out about Epstein, by understanding which organizations he worked for, which intelligence organizations he worked for, is crucial, because it helps us understand exactly how we got to Donald Trump. And that'll help us find our way out of Donald Trump as well.
Well, and let's recap that portion of this, is that Donald Trump delivered 33,000 pages of pure unadulterated bullshit that's already in the public square as part of the House Oversight Committee's decision, 8-2 decision to get these. James Comer, to your point, we'll get to him in just a second. And today he was waxing, and this is really fucking insulting to every single woman that was standing there, insulting to victims of sexual abuse, insulting to any human being who has ever had their innocence stolen from them via rape or sexual assault. Donald Trump literally sat there, and I want your take on this today, after we watched all that, including Maria Lacerda, minor victim number 1. She was recruited at 14, including Virginia Giuffre's brother. She was recruited at 16. Jalissa Lee, 14, all from shitty homes, recounted not just months or weeks of abuse, years of abuse, and being threatened to stick around and recruit other women for that abuse. And they all have the same fucking stories. There's a woman doing time in Bryant, Texas right now because of it, who got a sweetheart immunity deal. They're all fucking furious and livid about it. But let me just kind of drop this on everybody today. This Donald Trump literally said this in the Oval Office meeting with the Polish president. He said, I don't want to talk about this anymore. It doesn't matter. None of these things matter. It's a hoax. No matter what we give him, dude is absolutely caught 7 ways to Sunday. And Lev, he literally sat there as these women are pouring their hearts out after sitting on scars and cuts caused by abuse and pedophilia and rape. He's literally sitting in the Oval Office, smug as fuck, going, it's time to move on from that shit. No one cares about it anymore. He literally said that, Lev.
And you know what? Today, I literally watching this, and as we're doing it, something inside me flipped. And as of today, I'm starting a new mission. I'm not, instead of besides exposing Donald Trump for the piece of shit and for the corruption and for what he does, I'm going to go after these cover people that are doing the cover up. They're not getting the attention that they're doing, because what we're watching play out in front of our eyes. Because yes, Donald Trump could do whatever, but just realize what's happening, guys. Donald Trump is not the one that's holding back the release of the paper. It's people like James Comer. It's like Johnson. It's like there's 4 or 5 people, but there's more than 4 or 5 people. There's several hundred people out there right now in the Congress and Senate, with the midterms coming up, with everything coming up. They're worse, and they need to be. Their face needs to be on the poster of the enablers of the criminals. How are they any different? How come the media? This is what needs to be reported. This is, I am sick to my stomach right now, guys, to watch, to really understand what we got going on. Because Donald Trump sits in the office. He's a disgusting slob that is disintegrating in front of our eyes. That his health is going down the tubes. He's being laughed at and is an embarrassing stock. Even can't even make it into the dictators club. They didn't even invite him out there. You got he's completely throwing the world into chaos. We know all of that, but he can't do that without the enablers. I keep saying it. It's these guys that are allowing him to do it. It's these same congressmen that put his loyalists like Pam Bondi and Kash Patel in there.
This
It's and they're the ones
discharge
that
petition is very important for that, Lev. I mean, this thing
yeah
really is where you put your support behind. Because,
yeah.
Thomas Massey and introduced this thing to his credit. This is a Republican, and Ro Khanna, of course, the Democrat there, have put together this discharge petition, which should force a floor vote compelling the Justice Department to release this stuff. That vote is still going to happen. It just needs the support, and they believe they have the majority support. It would be a remarkable thing for this Congress to stand up to President Trump on anything. But on this thing, it would be remarkable. And if they do get that support, it's hard for me to see that they wouldn't release those files. They would have to do it. But that's why this is such an incredibly
Who
interesting
would be in
political time.
charge? Who would be in charge of releasing it? Would it
The
be
Justice
Comer?
Department would have to release what they have. So they have all the
So
FBI
what's the process?
documents.
Let's Zev, if you don't
Yeah.
mind, let's
Yeah.
tell the audience what's the process. Let's say this petition is signed. Let's say it goes through. Then what? What
It
happens
needs to
then?
get to a floor vote. The first thing we need to do is get it to a floor vote, which
Okay.
means it needs a discharge petition, which basically just allows them to force the vote on a free basis. I think Mike Johnson can't stop it. I think Mike Johnson is okay with actually it happening, or he's indicated it's okay. He's okay with it happening, but I don't believe at the end of the day he would. So this attempt, this discharge petition, allows them to have this vote. If they get that through, and it looks like they will be able to get that through, especially with all this publicity they're getting today, then the Justice Department will have to release it. I mean, Donald Trump can stop them, I guess. He's their boss,
yes.
but
When you say they have to, like, what do you mean? What, like, how?
they can't ignore a congressional order to they have to release it. I mean, they can, but it would require him stepping in and creating a constitutional crisis that would be serious. Obviously, he's a cover up of.
Is it more serious than taking American citizens off the street and throwing them in concentration camps and deporting them to El Salvador? I mean, is it more serious than putting the National Guard? I mean, do you even doubt? That's why I'm asking.
He will
you
try. He will try.
I mean, he will just do it. I mean, there's not try. He will just say this is. I will go on record right now and say before that if it gets to Donald Trump, he will just go on record say that enough. This is a hoax, and we're not going to deal with this. We have a great economy. Deal with what we're doing, and that's it. We're moving on. I'm not.
Then it's us for us to be responding to that in the way that we will, and the media will have to respond, and the people will have to respond by saying, we want this, and maybe this is the issue that forces people out in the street and says, we need these documents and these files. Because it speaks to everything. It speaks to the how he got there, his integrity, his everything. So it proves he's a liar. It proves he's a criminal. It's all these things that we've.
Let me ask you this question, because this is getting interesting. Because let's say they defy. Let's say we have some Republicans that right now, because after watching Anna Paul Luna yesterday, somebody that I know is a hardcore Trump supporter, watching her come out of that conference and talk about not only mentioning that there's a lot of powerful people that need to be held accountable, talking about, after listening to, so she heard it, she came out, you got people out there already that are changing sides. So now you're going to have several, let's say, Republicans come out against Trump. Does that give us enough now to take away the gavel from
Mike Lee?
Johnson and
Mike Johnson?
And have and start enforcing, not maybe going after, but start going after like Pam Bondi, or start
Cash
They
Patel.
can. They can impeach people. They can certainly change their speaker. I mean, there could be another Republican revolt. It would be unbelievable. I can't imagine it happening under the current circumstances, but it could happen. But they could definitely impeach these people. They can impeach everybody, including the president. He's impeachable, and if he's covering up, this is an obstruction of justice. Clearly, it's an obstruction of justice.
It's criminal conspiracy to defraud the human beings in the United States of America. It is criminal conspiracy at the highest level. It is a cover-up. It is a criminal cover-up of a file that gets victims justice. And the only reason that man is covering it up is because, as we've pointed out, his pudgy little edema rotting fingers are all over these files. And I want to go back to something you said, Lev, Anna Paulina Luna. She walked out of that oversight committee meeting last night after listening to the victims. Nancy Mace, same thing. Walked out
came out crying,
bawling, hyperventilating, walking down the hallway, shaking her head. Stories about being trafficked to Saudi Arabia, Russia, Israel. That was repeated again today. But that Anna Paulina Luna comment that she made saying, I don't think anybody understands how far reaching and huge this is. And there are a lot of very powerful people that need to go to jail. That wasn't just a hedging of a bet, Lev, to your point. That was a full sale, like, oh my God, I am an evangelist for these women now. And this is so much worse than anybody in the United States or anybody in the world knows, that some very powerful people need to go to jail. I'd love your thoughts as to what she said.
I mean, that's what, like, I mean, that's it. I mean, she said it. I mean, this is a hardcore charge. She heard it, and the lawyer, just think about the lawyers for the victims. He's saying also, he goes, if you would know what we know, we're just under protective order. But the man is telling you, he goes, we've heard it. She's come out. She's a Trump supporter. This is not already a Democrat. This is not somebody. This is a hardcore Trump support coming out say, if you hear what I just heard in there, people need to go down. So this is not a hoax. This is not, some kind of, to Donald Trump, it's a theatrical hoax because his whole life is about theatrics and how he could narrate the screen and the narrative and the story. But this is far bigger than Donald Trump, and we know it. I mean, we're talking about thousands of people, thousands of kids. I mean,
so can I just to like really buoy your point? There was a point in there where I believe it was Lisa Phillips talked about. No, excuse me, it was Haley Robson. She was recruited at 16. Asked if she, quote, wanted to give an old rich guy a massage. She was like, yeah, for sure. And she said, when she got into that room, Epstein made me undress and do things to me, gave me $200 and told me to bring other girls. You'd get $200 a girl, threatened me. This was the young lady who was charged with being a madam, and then the charges later reversed when they realized she was an underage girl who was being threatened by a power position player like Epstein to do the job that she was doing for him. And the only reason why she recruited was because she didn't want to get abused anymore herself by Epstein and all of his fucking friends. So there's that. But she said that in the evidence that the DOJ, the CIA, I mean, they were pointing fingers at the CIA, the FBI, and the DOJ all day, saying they have all of this stuff. We don't have any of it because it's all under lock and key and it's now classified. That there are banking records that dictated 1 year. In 1 year, Jeffrey Epstein withdrew $1 million in cash from JP Morgan Chase to pay his victims. I did the math. $200 a victim, that's 500,000 different incidents where women, young girls were abused. 500,000 sexual abuse incidents. 500,000. If her statement is correct and the DOJ, the CIA, and the FBI have that banking information and they're not giving it up, this is so much worse than I thought it was, just from some of the breadcrumbs that some of the victims were laying today, Lev.
I mean, a lot of them got other. If I just to correct you there, it's not just the $200 a massage. It's a lot of funds that they were given, like education funding, trips around the world, salaries, all sorts
buying for clothes.
Money
for clothes.
So it's
So
cut it in half.
But
cut it in half. Then 100,000 incidents.
But even if it's 1,000, or even if it's one girl. It doesn't matter if it's one victim or 100, but we know it's a massive amount. We know it's over. I mean, we're seeing victims standing. I mean, this is the sick, insane part. We're seeing, and this is, I think, what's really pissing me off more than anything is that how the president of the United States right now, that's supposed to be the leader for all the people, is right now literally, and his enablers, these and these monsters that are enabling him to do it, are literally basically saying you're liars to these victims, to these poor women out there that are sitting there that are not getting paid for this. They have nothing to gain from this. If anything, they're getting PTSD. They're reliving nightmares.
Re-victimizing.
When you're watching them stand there to talk about pleading to the public, saying, look, this is what I lived through when I was 14 years old.
Yeah. You know what's re-victimizing them is those jets, flying those jets over the press conference to
Fuck
silence
him.
them
Yeah,
again.
fuck him. Fuck
It's
him.
so ridiculous. And then to go on TV with a dueling press conference at exactly the same time to say it's some sort of hoax. It's a Democratic hoax,
Yeah,
just dismissing
yeah.
it all is so traumatizing for these victims. I mean, they've already been silenced so many times. They've already been told that they couldn't tell the truth. And just one other thing about Nancy Mace, for the base, which is so in Trump's camp, what they're learning about Donald Trump is shattering to them. I mean, she has put so much effort into the Trump presidency. She believes all this MAGA nonsense fully. And so she is now seeing the evidence, the truth laid in front of her of what this guy really is and where he came from. Now imagine that multiplied across his entire base, how effective that's going to be if the truth comes out about the Epstein files.
Does any of that bother him, Lev? Like, does like, obviously it bothers
Oh,
him.
He's triggered right now. I mean, I wrote about it today, and I mean, from whatever sources that are still speaking and that are coming out and leaking. I mean, he's triggered with this whole thing. That's why I mean, you saw him yesterday, you saw him today. I mean, first of all, he's not well. He has a lot more other things. He's trying to. It's like he's throwing everything he can at the board right now to try to discredit, deflect. I mean, to the point. Just think about it, to the point that he sent a flyover at the same exact time to time and while these victims to basically silence their voice. Again, it's to silence their voice.
How do they get women voters? How do they get women voters in the midterms or next time if this is how they treat with women, is that they completely silence the victims of
Well,
abuse like this?
well, as I've been saying, I mean, he's not planning on, he's trying to rig and steal the elections. He doesn't care. I mean, the women vote, between what he's doing with immigration, the big ugly bill, the tariffs, the economy. I mean, there's not. I mean, what positive thing there's not. I don't know one positive thing that he has done since he's gotten into office that united this country, except divided every single person more and more to such a degree that I mean we're seeing we're at each other's throats like literally every day. And the one thing that should be uniting us, this right here, this is I mean this should be a no brainer. This should be like it doesn't matter if how evil you are. I mean, just think about how evil you have to be able to make this now an issue, to say where you're going to cover up for pedophiles, where you're going to cover up for sex traffickers, where you're going to cover up for people that have thousands of victims, women. You're hearing the stories, and to go to that degree and to allow it. I mean, we all have to right now. I mean, we have over 1,500 people here, but each and every one of us have to say, I mean, what kind of world are we living in? What kind of country are we living in? We need to step up. It's time. We can't just be sitting here and watching this and listening to this and saying, okay, and then being in an outrage and posting and saying, I'm pissed off. No, we need to do something about it. And the easiest way, folks, that we could do something about it is go right now, make your voices heard louder than ever to these enablers, because these enablers are cowards. They're not the Donald Trumps out there. They need, when they start feeling the pressure, go, James, these people have political careers they still want. Comer wants to be the governor of Kentucky. Johnson still wants to move on to become a senator or who else. Well, we need to go after these people. We need to. There's enough already in the. We've been talking about this for a while. We've been talking about this for months, even before the Epstein stuff. About how because it's such a with everything that Donald Trump is doing, that it should be easy to go get 4, 5, 6 Republican to stand with us. We've been talking about the Don Bacons, the Masseys. I mean, now you already got. I mean, this is a subject where it's not about policy. This is about victims, kids, about I mean some kind of moral decency as Americans, as human beings, as people, that we need to start coming out. So this is what I'm saying to you. We have to say enough is enough. This has to be the line where we draw the line, and we go out there and we tell and push these congressmen and senators to stand up to Trump and release the files. Release all the files, and don't put some people are saying, oh, Comer has subpoenaed Acosta. Bullshit. He's gonna keep him in the basement where and then he's gonna seal his testimony and come out and give you his version of what Acosta told you. He's framed. I told you from day one. Comer is not there to get to the truth.
Yeah,
He's there
absolutely
to
not.
frame. He's there to frame the story.
They may not need voters, Lev, but they do need the base. They do need some supporters. They can't have this approval rating slip below 25%. I believe that's a magic number that they just can't go below. That once that happens, the country starts unraveling. There's just no support. So this is the issue. Even if we aren't going to have the right elections or free and fair elections in 2026, there is a lot of importance on the favorability ratings, on how popular he is among certain parts of the population. And then the other part is to wake up the rest of the population. This is the issue that can wake up a lot of people who are just ignoring politics, who are
Yeah.
just saying, I don't care. He's going to do his fascist thing. We'll just ride it out. Yes, but now we've got child raping going on. Now that's a serious
and
thing.
a cover up of that. And I think I don't know how you guys feel. I'm a vibe guy. And there's been this vibe of like an impenetrable vibe around MAGA, around Trump, the Teflon Don bullshit, where you just feel like it's pissing into the wind. Today, I felt something crack in that vibe. Today, watching those women and then watching his unbelievably, sarcastic, mean, evil comments about this is a hoax. It's a Democratic hoax. It's no big deal. It's time to move on. They'll always want more stuff. It's over. Forget it. We don't need to talk about Epstein or the victims anymore, which is effectively, and I'm super paraphrasing, but that's effectively what he said in the Oval Office as these women are pouring their fucking hearts out. And you can talk about moral flexibility, but I also want to talk about the soul of America a little bit. I felt the soul of America today a little bit, watching these women and watching a bipartisan group of people standing there who have hated each other's guts for the better part of half of a decade. Ask for the same thing from a president who is clearly covering up sex abuse that he is somehow involved in. And what I felt today was a real shift. It's kind of like watching a hockey game or a baseball game or a football game where you're like, oh my God, here they come. There's kind of no stopping this team now. And you can feel it. You can feel the tide. You can feel the momentum turn. And I felt that today, watching these women stand there, recount their experiences under tremendous duress after 20 years of PTSD, anxiety, depression, some of which are no longer with us. Virginia Giuffre being one of them. She was really the benchmark for a lot of these women. Her brother was there. And the emotion that came out of these women. And for the very first time, I think, in the past 10, 12 years, and Lev, maybe you could kind of give me your thoughts or your feelings on this, I felt like Donald Trump might be vulnerable. I felt that today for the first time, because when you are standing there with that bipartisan group of people and you need 4 votes, actually 2 votes, and you're going to get them from people like Anna Paulina Luna, and you're challenging them as these women did all day long. They weren't egregious. They didn't name names per se, but what they did say was, we need your vote. We need the transparency. We need to heal. And I thought that was such an incredible way for them to come out together. But at the same time, Lev, I felt a real shift in momentum around the vulnerability with MAGA and Donald Trump today. I don't know if you did too.
No, I mean, I've been feeling that shift already. I mean, and I've been talking about, and we've been talking about. I mean, I think that, like I said, the Epstein files, and as we call it, just as a subject, has been is Donald Trump's kryptonite. It's he's blew up his base over that. I mean, there's no going back. I mean, there's certain people that have left the base that are not going to vote for Donald Trump. They are not going to accept unless he some miraculously somehow gains their trust by releasing all the files, which we know is not going to happen. It's not. I don't see Donald Trump. Knowing the way I know him, I don't. Watching his actions, I don't see him trying to get his base back. Just think about the crazy part. Just Donald Trump does everything. He goes out there and gives pizza to ICE agents outside, meets with there. He's the president to the people. He's the most transparent. Think about this, guys. Just think about how crazy this is. We have these victims right now, survivors, standing on the lawn, maybe like blocks away from the White House, standing there, pouring their hearts out, asking, saying, "We want to talk to you, President Trump. We want to tell you. We want to let you hear the stories directly from us, what happened to us." And instead of inviting them, sitting down with them, with the victims,
So
and
true.
listening to them, just listening to them. This is not about anything up, to make up. So, he dismissed them by again saying they are a hoax.
Yeah.
Just think about that, folks. Just think about that. Now, if that doesn't get you like right here, nothing will. I mean, that means nothing this man could do will get you there. So that's why this has to be the line, and this is why he's not the one that controls the strings here. There's people that we could go right now and push that control the key to the, like Johnson, like I mean, there's so many of them in Congress. Forget about Johnson.
Yeah.
Forget about even we don't even have to go after the hardcore. How many votes? I mean, we need what, 4, 2,
4,
3,
and there's
4?
212.
Yeah, that's
And
such a
there's
good point.
212.
Such a
There's
good point.
200. There's 212. There, you know
Yeah.
how many? You know how many of them? Let's go after the quiet ones. Let's go after the ones that are trying to stand on the sideline, that are trying to not get their name thrown in there as slide by. They're just as complicit.
Yeah. Those people are scared of not being elected in
It
midterms. They're
doesn't matter.
terrified.
It doesn't matter. Exactly. Let's not go after the big names, the ones that are out there, rah, 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 down. Let's go after the ones that are trying. There's 212 of them. Let's make that list. People, this is what I'm telling you. We need to start going after, because just think, we need a couple of them.
MTG for the Democrats would be a good hire. Go after her.
I think the Jewish space laser stuff precluded her from ever joining the Dems.
If she wants to, she can join. We'll take her.
I'm gonna say this. I until she goes on the floor and starts naming names like
Yeah.
she said she would do, or until she goes into the White House and confronts Trump directly to have him meet the victims. Until she does something like that, as far as I'm concerned, she's a Trojan horse.
Yeah,
trying to be Trump's eyes and ears inside those meetings, inside those conversations, to be able to see, so her getting up there and saying that while her boyfriend is in the White House right now, framing the story a totally different way, how this is a hoax.
Right.
And this is all theatrics, guys. All these people are, I swear to you, it should be on TV. This is like reality TV on steroids.
Big
This is
Brother
what
White
we're
House
watching.
edition. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's cast like that. I'm sure that they hired them all for this particular thing, to be gaslighting America on a regular basis. I mean, this is why MTG's there.
Yeah. I don't, that part of it really threw me today, right? The
MTG.
fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene was standing next to Ro Khanna, Thomas Massey.
I will name names on the floor, she said. She
said she was going to name names. She also said, and I just took a couple of notes. Like I said, Marjorie Taylor Greene crossing the floor with the Dems made my head hurt, but also made me happy. She mentioned that she talked to the victims who were trafficked to places like Saudi Arabia, Russia, and Israel, demanded that the truth come out, demanded that Trump holds the FBI, DOJ, and CIA, who own the files, and says, we need to get to the truth. She kept saying, we need the truth. All the evidence sits with the DOJ, the CIA, and the FBI, and who is in charge of those institutions, the very people who are hiding this stuff.
Wait, did she sign the bill? I don't think she signed the bill yet.
Oh, yeah. No, she put her name on it.
I think she's co-sponsoring it. I think she is.
Yeah.
I think she is.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, Waj wants to join in. So if you want to drop me in and add Waj, that's a good idea. And I can just do some other stuff for a few minutes here. But
you do Waj. You do. Wash.
No, I can't.
I'll go,
You have
and
to.
I'll come back.
You have
I'll
to.
do Wash.
You have to.
won't be able to go because you're the one.
Yeah.
You're the host. If you
Okay.
go, then
That's cool.
we all
I'll be
gonna
here.
go.
I'll watch it when you're done. Bring me back.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do this. And then I could go, and then you'll bring back. We could circle, because there's a lot to go down.
Do the big circle. Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to get out of here. Zeb's going to go. We'll talk to you soon. Go get his Greatest Heights
Cheers.
series, everybody. Thanks. Subscribe to my friend Zeb
Everybody.
Shalev.
See you in a bit.
He's going to drop out. I'm going to get rid of you. Actually, let's get rid of
It's
you
okay.
right now. Yep. See you.
Look at that. Yeah, powerful.
So rude.
You're like,
I'm
you're like
so
Donald
rude.
Trump right now with that button. Like you can just make people disappear.
Let me get Waj in here. The left hook. There we go. Here we go. I'm going to bring Waj in from the left hook. This is good. This will be my introductory meeting with the Waj, as they call him, from
Really?
the left
You guys
hook.
haven't
Yep.
met yet? Oh, this is great.
Never met him. He reminds me of me a little bit because he doesn't hold much back. I love his language.
And you guys have, he impersonates Donald Trump pretty good. I don't know who does a better job, him or Allison from Mueller, she wrote, but they do a pretty good job of impersonating Donald Trump.
Yeah. Really good job of impersonating him. Everybody, listen, this is the new Trump impersonation. All you have to do is say, it's a hoax. Everything's a hoax. Everything that you do is a hoax. I am still on the floor by what he said in the Oval Office today about those incredibly brave women who he knows, lots of them he knows, like on the floor. Waj, left hook. Great to meet you, sir. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much for inviting me. How are you doing?
Yeah, we're good. We're just breaking down what we just saw, which was a contrast, if you will, where you got dozens of brave, incredible women recounting their experiencing, asking for transparency, pointing to the roadmap with Brad Edwards. This is where the files are. Get the files. They're under lock and key. Only to be disrupted by a flyover that Trump ordered during the actual presser, and then of course Trump in the Oval Office saying, "It's a hoax. Forget it. Dem hoax. Blah 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 blah." What are your thoughts, Waj? What did you see?
Well, yeah, I just saw that clip of President Trump sitting there when he was asked about all these hundreds of women who have come out and victims and survivors. I just want to remind folks because I think it gets lost, and we'll talk about, obviously how this is terrible for Trump and also how Democrats have to pounce on this. But first and foremost, these are survivors. These are girls who were raped. And I know that sounds, I know it hits, but we have to use that language. These were girls who were raped by Jeffrey Epstein, who was chummy with some of the world's most powerful people. Jeffrey Epstein, according to the audio that we heard with our own ears, Dean, with Michael Wolff, with his many hours of conversation, he said that he was Donald Trump's closest friend for a decade. What Michael Wolff has told us, and what we know with the evidence of our eyes and our ears, is Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein partied. They were buddies from the late 80s until the early 21st century, right? And in the 90s, what did they do together? They had one singular obsession. They used to chase models, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And when I asked Michael, well, how old were these models? Michael said ages of 14 to 20. And Epstein had a modeling agency. As Lev knows, Trump had a modeling agency. Trump took over Miss, USA and Miss Teen USA. We know that Donald Trump, as a grown man, used to go into the dressing room of Miss Teen USA. Those are girls. We also know Donald Trump has 24 credible accusations of sexual assault. Donald Trump is the man who was held liable for sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll, defaming her as well. Donald Trump is the man who sexualized his own daughter. The comments he's made about his daughters, not just Ivanka, but also Tiffany. And then we also know that General Kelly, who was in the first administration, his chief of staff, had to allegedly stop Donald Trump because Donald Trump was going on and on about, his Ivanka's body. And he said, "Sir, that's your daughter." So this is who Donald Trump is, Dean. I just want people to sit with it for a second, that he partied with a man who is the most notorious pedophile that we've known. A man who was given a sweetheart deal in 2008 after these girls came out on the record, Dean, and said this man raped us. They had him dead to rights. Any other person probably would have been jailed for life. And Alex Acosta, who was a U.S. attorney, gave him a sweetheart deal that allowed him essentially to stay out of prison for 6 out of 7 days of the week where he could continue raping. And people are like, well, why did you give him the sweetheart deal? And Wall Street Journal later reported that Alex Acosta said, well, we heard he was intelligent. So now you fast forward. The only other pedophile, Dean, that has ever got such a sweetheart deal is Ghislaine Maxwell, who, along with Donald Trump, and this is very important, according to these girls, the Farmer sisters, Virginia Giuffre, who allegedly killed herself in April, who was passed around like a platter of fruit, her exact words, by Jeffrey Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell was sometimes even worse than Epstein because they trusted Ghislaine Maxwell. She found them, groomed them, and then also, according to the Farmer sisters and Virginia Giuffre, along with Epstein, raped these girls. Nobody right now, Dean, has a good answer as to why Ghislaine Maxwell, who is the most notorious pedophile after Jeffrey Epstein, who without Ghislaine Maxwell's, Rolodex, Epstein would not have been friends with the world's most powerful and famous people. Who authorized Lev and Dean, Ghislaine Maxwell, to get a cushy transfer to a minimum security camp in Texas, where, by the way, now she's eligible for work release, right? What was the quid pro quo? Like, literally, there's no good reason for this. So what I say is this is the pro-pedophile presidency. We're witnessing in real time our first pro-pedophile president, a man who, in his watch, refuses to release the Epstein files. The federal judge recently said, Department of Justice can release all of them. Don't ask me to release the grand jury testimony because I'm going to compromise these victims who've come
for the
forward.
third time, Wash. That was for the third time.
So that's number one. Sorry, go ahead, Liv.
Oh no, and I don't want to interrupt you, but I just want to make one little what's it called? We're not just witnessing a pro-president pedophile. We're witnessing a pro-GOP pedophile. Because without them, without the enablers, right now he can't get away with what he's doing. So
it's a group of pedophiles. That's the GOP. It's called the group of pedophiles. And I just want to give two other examples because people forget real quick why I call it the pro-pedophile president, right? People might say, oh, that's harsh, Waj. Oh, it's a low blow. Okay. First and foremost, Ghislaine Maxwell. That should be it. Why, oh, why in this presidency is the tough on crime president who's unleashing the National Guard against the American people for the first time ever, like dictators, armed National Guard members. Why did he give a free pass to Ghislaine Maxwell? Number one. Number two, we also know the Israel's cybersecurity official in Las Vegas in August was arrested in an FBI sting operation, folks. This is the biggest scandal that no one's talking about. Like, this is a layup for Democrats.
Yeah.
Israel's cybersecurity official was caught in an FBI sting operation.
And he got sprung by Trump.
Yep, by Trump.
He's in Israel right now. Israel right now. And then third, Russ Ulbricht got a pardon. And people kind of forget this. Russ Ulbricht was the founder of Silk Road. Silk Road was the digital hub, folks, the online hub for drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, and
human
sex trafficking.
Yeah.
And he was pardoned by Donald Trump. No one's talking about it. And the reason why he was pardoned, because Silk Road was also the hub of crypto. So a lot of these crypto bros said, Russ is like our dude. So in order to help the crypto bros, they got rid of he pardoned their guru, Russ Ulbricht. And we just found out yesterday who is now worth billions of dollars, Dean and Lev, due to crypto.
Russ Ulbricht.
And
the Trump family.
Yeah. They've made $5 billion, haven't they? In the past 7 months. Yeah.
Sorry for my rant, but there you go. I just wanted to say that.
I just want to say, guys, between Dean and Waj, I mean, the way I just sit here amazed the way you guys break it all down. I mean, I'm telling you, it's incredible. You just broke it all down, and people need to understand that Donald Trump just made over $5 billion. Waj, was reported, the family. And also keep in mind, while we're talking about that, the way they did it, Donald Trump didn't make that. His bumbling fool's son, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, didn't do it. They got the Witkoffs. Don't forget, Zach Witkoff is partners with them. That Steve Witkoff's son is partners with them on that crypto stuff that they're saying. You can't make this up the way the collusion in front of the eyes that's happening.
It is, dude. It is so corrupt. I mean, the collusion and the corruption, and you bring it up. I know it's a colloquial way to say, the president is harboring pedophiles, but is there any other solution here when it comes to assessing what MAGA or the GOP are, other than effectively a protection racket for fucking criminals, pedophiles, and sexual abusers that Donald Trump has managed to somehow recruit fucking all of them? Like, is there any other solution other than that, Wash?
No, I think, look, we have to name it for what it is, and we have the ability, being independent, that we can say it bluntly, right? We don't have to like hold back our punches, such as the folks on CNN and New York Times and Washington Post, because you just have to look at the facts, Dean, right? Again, just look at the evidence of your eyes and your ears. That's all I want people to do. Donald Trump, as the president of the United States of America, was elected because, in part, his base believed that he was the one who would take out the deep state, right?
Yeah.
This is the tragic, well, not tragic, I think irony here, which is kind of, we can laugh at it, is that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino made their bones in MAGA by promoting the QAnon deep state conspiracy that Lev knows all about. This conspiracy, folks, I just want people to sit with it because people don't know how dangerous QAnon is. They radicalized their base, folks, for 10 years that said that anybody who's against Donald Trump, law enforcement, government officials, the press, anyone, me, Lev, even Lev now. Well, Lev was once their good guy, but now he's part of the deep state.
He's not.
That
Oh
we're
yeah,
part-
you're on the hit list, dude, for sure.
yeah, fascists aren't loyal to anyone, folks. What they said is that anyone who's a critic of Donald Trump is part of this international deep state run and used by Jews. And what's even worse is they said that we're part of an international sex trafficking cabal, wait for it, that actually worships the devil. And not only do we kidnap and rape children, we also kill them. This
And you
was
drink blood.
literally,
You drink blood.
this
Don't
is what
forget, you drink their blood also.
you
Just
drink
remember.
their blood. So it's old school blood libel, all right?
That's
So
new.
this, and you might think I'm joking, folks. No, this was QAnon. It was in the swamps of the internet. It then got mainstreamed in part by Trump, Bongino, Kash Patel, and others, because they realized, oh, our base is into this, and we can use this to attack all of our enemies. And they said Donald Trump was the only one, because he's an outsider, Dean, and because he's an alpha man. Once elected, he will purge the deep state, and their entire thesis revolves around the Epstein files. The Epstein file, that is the holy grail that will show you that this international cabal, the deep state, and all these people working together. And they promised their base, they radicalized their base. The base was so radicalized, folks, that the FBI 5 years ago warned that QAnon would radicalize individuals and or groups to potentially commit violence. Who was radicalized by QAnon? There's at least two people that we know. Well, there's several. Number one was Ashley Babbitt. Oh, you know, that radicalized member, the insurrectionist who got shot in the head because she came there with violence on her mind. She
No
came there
longer
for
with
blood,
us.
folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, no longer with us. And then the second person that no one talks about, but I keep the receipts, Vance Bolter, the man who, you know, had a hit list of 70 Democrats, killed Melissa Hortman and her husband.
Oh, he was stealing them. I
shot
didn't know that. I didn't know that was really wow.
Vance Bolter,
The Minnesota shooter? Yeah.
the shooter, Trump supporter, white Christian nationalist, was what really tipped him was QAnon. So he was into all these conspiracy theories, but QAnon, it's only one, I think it was Washington Post and New York Times was the only one who did the follow up, like what radicalized him. So he was also a QAnon believer, and they said that the QAnon thing was the one that kind of just tipped him over, right? And then we also saw Pizzagate right here, 20 minutes from where I live. Remember that I've been to that pizza place before, the Ping Pong Pizza place, where over 10 years ago, you saw the first manifestation of this, Dean and Lev, where this guy who was not crazy shows up with a gun, enters into the pizza parlor, says, "Where are the kids?" And like, sir, this is like the first, sir, this is a Wendy's. Sir, this is a pizza parlor. And he was like, no, but Hillary Clinton, the Democrats are hiding kids in the basement. So
Yeah.
so now this is the Frankenstein's monster, which has been radicalized by Dr. Frankenstein, is now turning on the creator. Which is why, Dean, to bring it back full circle to your question, I think having Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's a freak, be one of the faces right there with the survivors. I know some people might find that jarring, but the reason why I think that's so important, Dean, and Lev and I have been talking about this on our shows for like 2 months. The one bipartisan issue in America, and this is very tragic, with the state of America right now, that independents, Democrats, and conservatives all agree on, is they want the Epstein files released. Donald Trump is negative double digits on the Epstein file.
Yeah.
And if you can use this as a wedge, which has already been used to weaken the Republican Party, what I've said always is just the way this country works, Dean, is if Republicans say it, corporate media goes along with it. So I want to remind people, who was the first major paper that dropped Trump Epstein connection? Wall Street Journal. You know that flaming
Murdoch.
leftist
Murdoch.
yeah. Dean, that flaming lefty communist at Wall Street Journal, and then after Wall Street Journal dropped it, that's what, if you guys, I'm just keeping it real. Once it was Wall Street Journal, once it was the conservatives, then you saw corporate media say, oh, conservatives are letting us talk about it. So I think having Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene and now that freak Nancy Mace being the ones kind of on it, they're feeling the heat from their base, Dean, because they know their base is radicalized. And also, as Lev has said with his sources, Dan Bongino's feeling that heat. And I'm really curious, Lev, I want to ask you if I may, Dean, it's your show.
Oh,
But
no, go ahead. Yeah, please.
I want to ask Lev, where's Bongino in all of this? Because this is making much bigger news than I'm sure Bongino likes. And Bongino, folks, has gone super quiet.
Yeah.
Notice.
That's exactly right. I can tell you I've been all over this since yesterday, since we spoke, Waj, and then I've been on the Bongino thing, and it is silent. The two things that I cannot get not one even like a speculation are his health and Bongino. That's how these two things are like so crazy. But just from knowing them and watching their emotions, I'm going to go out on the limb and say that Bongino is still completely not on the train or on their side. Otherwise, you would see him come out. The second you see Bongino come out, you will see him. The truth come out. I think one of the things that could stir that up, Waj, because I'm glad you brought up the Bongino thing, because one of the things I've been thinking about is maybe I might start calling out Bongino and Comer. Let's subpoena Bongino. Let's see what Dan Bongino knows. Why did he want to leave the FBI? What was he saying? Release the files. I don't know from a legal standpoint, because he still is that maybe one of the reasons why they're not letting him go, because as is still an officer, FBI, second in command, he can't maybe go into, but as Congress, they should be able to subpoena. I'm a little, I don't know what the legality is there, but I think if there was some pressure put, I think he's getting off the hook very easy. I think we need the media. We need some pressure on Bongino. I think if there was some pressure put on him, and not just Bongino, like we've been talking about, some of these enablers. There's more people out there that know what's going on. I think is what's happening, and what I'm just, even from our conversation today, what I'm realizing is we tend to focus on the big names like Donald Trump, like the House Speaker Johnson, and like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like the names that are usually thrown around. But there's over 200 congressmen and congresswomen that are voting, not to have this released, or voted for the big beautiful bill, which are coming up midterms right now, which are don't have the same money, the same power, and they're treading the line. They're trying to stay quiet. They're trying to stay out of but they're voting for Trump. I think this is where where the concentration should be, is attacking them, because the people, the Johnsons of the world, they're ready for it. They're fighting back. But I think, and that's why part of it is, I think, putting pressure, asking the questions. Where's Bongino? Have you noticed that the media doesn't even speak about it? Like we're the only ones talking about it. Like has somebody even asked one question, like, Dan Bongino, why you've been the biggest proponent about this whole Epstein stuff? What is your take on this whole thing? Like, just like
I linked to his tweet. I troll him, Lev and Dean, every couple of days. I said, release the Epstein files. Where are the Epstein files? And what I do, Dean, is I deliberately tweet at Bongino. And the reason why I do it,
because
is I
you're
know they read
Watch.
all.
Because you're you. That's why you do it, bud. That's why we love you.
No, because look, you have to be strategic about this as well. First and foremost, I really mean what I said. Like, I'm so happy these survivors are come out. Can you imagine? I mean, I don't want anyone to imagine. I mean, these girls were raped. They came out, and can you imagine? Everyone knows who your rapist is. Everyone knows this story, but because he's so powerful and well connected, nothing happens. So the trauma of undergoing that, Virginia Giuffre had a terrible life, folks. She went through so much. She's the one who said that she was working at Mar-a-Lago as a spa attendant at the age of 16. Her father managed properties. Ghislaine Maxwell Trump, folks, I keep saying, me and Lev have been saying this for a while, and also Zev, that the Trump's Achilles cankle not heel, but his Achilles cankle is Epstein. And we've been saying it for a while. Epstein,
Yeah.
Epstein, Dean. And look at it today. Like he cannot help it because he's such a freak. He's such a barbaric human being. He can't even. You just have to pretend, Dean. Whenever anyone's in a scandal, just say the right thing. Just be like, I'm the women are victims and I feel bad for them. He can't help it. He called Virginia Giuffre a piece of property. He said he stole it from me. And Virginia Giuffre was stolen by Ghislaine Maxwell. And then Virginia Giuffre said as soon as she went to Jeffrey Epstein, because she was lured, Ghislaine Maxwell said, come to Epstein. He's a good guy. Trust me. Look at me. I'm a woman. I'm polished. Come. Oh, he'll help you. She said immediately she was passed around like a platter of fruit for 2 years. And she also is the one who named Prince Andrew, right? So what Lev and I said, Dean, for about 2 months ago, said, why don't these useless Democrats, I don't know, hold a press conference with the survivors, right?
Mhm.
And then finally, and I also think it's very smart that it's bipartisan. So I'll give credit where credit's due. I criticize, but I also try to be fair. Ro Khanna, we had him on our show last week, Dean. And, I said, Ro, well done on this. It's Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey who've been dogged on it. And I think, and then I also want to, because I keep receipts, Dean. You remember folks in July who said, "Oh, we shouldn't focus on Epstein. We should focus on bread and butter issues." You know who that was, Dean?
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
maybe focus on Epstein.
Yeah. You bring up such incredible points, Waj. Obviously, Lev with his insight. And we're talking about the vulnerable GOP members after today. And I want to know, and I want your opinion on who should we target? I mean, if we're going to have this conversation and you've got 212 tight-lipped GOP maggots that are currently helping Donald Trump be complicit in the cover-up of transparency and the abuse of thousands of young women around the world, who do you go after? And do you think today changed anything? I don't care who goes first, because today would have changed something for me. If I'm one of those 212 holdouts that's propping up Donald Trump's bullshit, what I watched today with those incredibly brave women and what we're talking about today, when you put all these pieces together so eloquently, Waj, the avalanche is here. I mean, it's too heavy. So who's next? Like, who do you think, in your estimation, Lev? We'll start with you. What congressmen, congresswomen should we be going after, if not the big names? I mean, you've obviously got 212 people who are having some very fucking deep thoughts about what they need to do when it comes to sponsoring this discharge petition, right?
Well, the interesting part is I don't know their names, and we don't know that. That's the whole reason why, is because they're not out there in the public. But what I'm going to do is, when we're done, one of the things I'm going to do today, and I'm asking each and every, we have over 2,000 people watching right now. I'm asking each and every one of you, besides spreading this message far and wide, besides subscribing, besides being paid today, I'm asking personally to let's start making lists. Let's start putting together. Let's start putting their names out there. From where you're the constituents. We're right now. You're from all over the country. You know better than me, better than Dean or Waj, who these people are. Because let's start doing it. Let's start putting them on spot. Let's start getting some of these names. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start going. I'm going to start making lists together right now. And again, there's everybody is fair game. Let's go out there, because if they're willing to support a pedophile, if they're willing to support this cover up, if they're willing to try to cover up and rewrite history for the victims, then they are fair game to be able to be exposed, to be able to be out there. So I'm going to be working on that today. I mean, I'm as soon as we get off, I can tell you that I'm so pissed off with what's going on right now. And I'll tell you another thing, Wash.
Go ahead, Lev. Go ahead.
You said something also very interesting that nobody's picking up on. That as far as Trump even admitted himself that Virginia was used like a piece of real estate, and that Epstein took her. But the interesting part, that even they couldn't even cover that up properly, because when his fixer went in there to question her and asked her about that. Did you ever take? She lied about it and said no, never take it. Even to that degree. I mean, just think about it. Where Trump admitted, that's how how sick this cover up is, folks.
But the hypocrisy and the distraction itself. To your point, Donald Trump, Air Force One, a month and a half ago, someone asked him, "Hey, did you lose some spa attendants to Jeffrey Epstein? We hear they're young girls." And Waj recounted it perfectly again. He's like, he stole them, he took them, not just her, but a bunch of other girls. It's not just Virginia Giuffre. He made mention that there were lots of women that were stolen from him, which when he was talking about it, you can only denote that he treated them like fucking property, like they were pieces of meat, to Lev's point. But the other part of that gets me is, to Lev's point again, we just sat through a 5 hour and 48 minutes of a heavily redacted, heavily edited, absolute softball bullshit deposition between Todd Blanche and Ghislaine Maxwell, where she said none of that happened. Like, none of that happened. So, like, we know what the fucking truth is. And the truth comes out of his mouth because he's so gone. He's now saying shit that he shouldn't say. And he's watching these victims today getting angrier and angrier that he just can't skate on this. So your thoughts, Wash. And by the way, I've got about 5% left on my phone, so I might lose you. Just letting you know.
So we'll be quick, but to answer your question, like Representative Jim McGovern, a Democrat of Massachusetts now, this is what he said about 15 minutes ago, quote, to the Republicans, "You guys think you work for Trump. Let me repeat, every single Republican on the Rules Committee voted against releasing the Epstein files. Every single one. We heard last night that all Republicans want full transparency, but that's just not true. So to answer your question, go to the top. Donald Trump, you're complicit. This is a cover-up. This is a language I would use if I'm Democrats. Wall Street Journal said that Pam Bondi told you in May that you were all over the files. At ABC News, when they asked you, you lied to the public. Why did you lie, and why have you been engaging in a cover-up? Pam Bondi, why did you lie when you said you had the files? Kash Patel, you're the FBI director. You promised the release. How come you didn't? Dan Bongino, you're apparently the hero. You actually became a deputy director to release the files. How come you haven't? This will cause fissures with the base, all right? Then it will, because the base is like, hey, you sellouts, which is why Bongino is stuck right now. Then I would go down, Mike Johnson. You're the leader of the House. Instead of releasing the files, you actually shut short the House and to literally delay voting on the Epstein files. You said, nope, recess. And then all you dudes the Republicans then went to friggin' Israel. Speaking about Israel, Donald Trump, your appointed a U.S. attorney in Nevada, Segal Chata, it's her district where an Israeli cybersecurity man tried to rape a child. Thank God it wasn't a child. It was an FBI sting operation. No one so far has explained how he was able to flee to Israel. That's how you hit them with the pro-pedophile party, right? Then I would go down the list, as Lev said, every single Republican on the Rules Committee, by name, every day, on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on the town halls, by name. Why did you vote against releasing the Epstein files? This is what I would do. Easy layup, Dean. Any Republican.
Yeah.
Do you agree with Donald Trump that the Epstein files are a hoax? There you go. Simple.
Yeah.
Simple. Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what you want to make it 3 words. That's exactly why, Trump. You want easy message and the same message over. Do you agree that the Epstein files are a hoax without? And just we need to do a campaign, folks. What you just heard Wash say, each and every one of you.
Are the Epstein files a hoax?
Are the Epstein files a hoax? And start hitting each and every one on all social platforms. X, Twitter, Blue Sky.
I'll do it right now.
You plan. Yeah, I'm going to go after we're done also. And also start writing your emails. Start making your phone calls. Start flooding their lines up. Because remember, a lot of them are not these big, powerful, on TV faces. They can handle the pressure. Most of them out of these 200 are scared shitless that their name doesn't come out. So let's expose them for who they are, for the cover-up that they're doing, and let's put the pressure on them. And with that said, let me and Waz should be the only one talk about Dan Bongino, guys. Let's do your thing. Come on. Each and every one of you, let's go. Let's tag Dan Bongino. Let's ask him what's going on.
Count me in on the Bongino troll factory too, by the way. I'll get at it today.
Guys. Let's do it. That's how we do it.
I'll do it right now. Bongino, do you agree with your boss that it's a hoax?
Yeah.
Do it. Tag me, and I'll make sure I put it out on socials as well. Twitter, Substack.
Yeah.
Let's just amplify each other's shit and just ask the same exact question that was.
That's how the right wing works. That's
what we did. That's exactly what we did. Thank you. That's exactly.
Yeah, brilliant. Waj, pleasure
did
to
it.
meet you today, dude. I'm gonna lose juice here in just a
Yeah,
second, but we're gonna
thanks
come back.
so much.
Yeah, dude, great to
Thank
meet
to
you.
Zev also.
Yeah,
Take care, everyone.
Zev's the king. Waj, Left Hook, give him a subscribe, give him a follow, share his stuff. He's one of the true gentlemen on social media. He stands up for what's right. Character, conviction, virtue. God, I love watching this guy work. Really appreciate you showing up, Waj.
Thank you,
Thanks
man.
so much.
Thank you.
And that, of course, my friend Lev Parnas, award-winning whistleblower, former fixer. Great to have you on the inside. So grateful to know you, to see the work that you're doing with Waj on your own, watching the resistance grow, watching men rally around women, watching guys like us, put our money where our mouth is. And to your point, we're independent. We can do this. It's never been more important to subscribe and support people like Lev, people like Waj, people like Zev, myself as well. So please do so. Share this widely. Make sure that you do one thing today. Believe women, ladies and gentlemen. Believe the victims. What I saw today means that the tide is changing, and I think we all agree that it is. And I just another absolute, prayerful thanks to these beautiful, courageous, smart women who came forward today. Today was about victims. Today is also about getting justice. Today is also about transparency. It's never important, specifically for men, to stand up for these women. So use your voices. Let's get together. Let's continue to share. Thank you very much for spending some time with us. Larry David says it, and I say it all the time from him. You can give us, you can take our shit, but you can't take our time because we don't get any more of it. So when you spend it with us, it means the world to all of us. So thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. And we'll be back, I'm sure, at some point today because things are just getting started. So we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks, Waj. Thanks, Lev. We'll talk to you guys hopefully much sooner than later.